like to call the rescheduled monthly meeting of July 26, 2018 to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Franco?
Present.
Mr. Klein?
Here.
Mr. Barbarulo?
Here.
Dr. Cronin?
Here.
Ms. Quackenbush?
Here.
Mr. Rosenberg?
Here.
Mr. Spindell? Mr. Spindell?
Present.
Mrs. Wallace? Mr. Banta?
Here. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law is enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this Act, the Fair Lawn Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having a date, time, and place thereof distributed to persons on the approved list, posted in the Board of Education Administrative Office, sent to the Bergen Record and the Star Ledger. The announcement posting for the rescheduled monthly meeting along with the date, time, and place thereof was distributed on June 22nd, 2018. The items we discussed during closed work session of July 26, 2018 may include personnel matters, student matters, legal matters, negotiations and grievances, and tactics and techniques utilized in protecting public safety and property. The results of this discussion will be made public as soon as possible. Would you join me in a flag salute? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a couple of presentations, and I'll turn the meeting over to Mr. Garcia.
Good evening, everyone. Twice in 1 week for some of you. It's a special week. You want to spend it with us, and very honored. There's a couple of things we're going to be opening up with tonight. The first one is the security director update. On the agenda, you will see our director of safety and security that we are recommending to the board. He is not here tonight, probably because we ironed out the details, last minute details, a couple hours ago. But we're very excited to recommend somebody who made it all the way to the top from 170 applicants. It was the most applicants I've ever seen in any position. It was very difficult to go through all of those resumes. Brooke and I spent a lot of time doing that, and it was worth it, because we're very pleased with the gentleman that we're recommending. His name is Robert McNamara. He was a former police officer who retired, and most recently he is in charge of the security for the City University of New York, which has 28,000 students, 5 campuses down by Ground Zero, or now the Freedom Tower. And he just continued to impress us throughout the whole process and what he can bring to Fair Lawn here, and hopefully afford us the right to ensure that our schools and our students and our staff are safe and secure. It's just, we're very excited to have this position coming to Fair Lawn. So he's not here tonight. Like I said, he had another engagement, but you will see that recommendation on here, and I just wanted to give you an update on that. The second thing that we will be speaking about is a product called Peachjar that we will be bringing to Fair Lawn. It was something that Natalie and I had noticed at a conference that we were at, and we were very interested in the product because we know that in an effort for us to be more environmentally friendly and go a little bit more to the green movement here in Fair Lawn, we know how much copying happens here in the district. We know how expensive copying is. We know how bad it is for the environment. And we were really, and not just because of the environment piece, but we thought this was a great way for you to get information in Fair Lawn quicker than a handout, a mailing, or something going home in a backpack. We're not saying that everything is going to be paperless moving forward. However, this is an opportunity for you to see the product that we're going to be presenting to you tonight. This product has no cost to Fair Lawn forever, which is very nice. So we not only are we saving money on the copying, but we're saving money because it does not cost us anything. We are the first school district in New Jersey that will be using this product, which we're very proud of as well. Hopefully we'll be trendsetters for the rest of New Jersey, and I believe that's what they're hoping as well. What this product does, and Liz Wellinghorst, our communication liaison, is going to be presenting it. What this product does is it allows us to use e-flyers. So anything that we want to send home, any flyer about a school dance, a FLACE function, a PTA, a PTO, anything that we want to send home from the district, you will receive an email through an e-flyer. It will be an e-flyer. So as a principal, you can put all of your flyers for the week in one email and send it home to all your parents. You will not have any hard copies anymore, and you will see all those flyers in there at once. You also can click on the flyer and register right there through the flyer, but it also builds your database. So as a parent, when you log in, you will see all of the flyers you ever received right there, which is really nice. So it's just a great feature that we love, not only because it's great for the environment, but we think it's very user-friendly and it's great for you as well to access information. I'm going to have Liz do her presentation. I'm not going to steal her thunder, and then I can answer any questions that we have to.
Okay. So as Nick mentioned, my name is Liz Wellinghorst, and I'm the new communications liaison. I haven't met the board, but many of you I haven't met yet, so I look forward to meeting you and working with you. So Nick just mentioned the name of the program is called Peachjar.com. Peach, J-A-R, one word, .com. This program is a web-based digital flyer platform. Peachjar is going to provide the parents and the district staff access to school-approved digital flyers for after-school and school-related activities. What's really great about this is we're going to save so much time and resources, not copying, distributing, and they're going to be archived on the Peachjar website. So parents and the district staff will have access to Peachjar from a little tab that we're going to put on the district website. So it's going to be easy to access. They're going to get in it by a username and a passcode. So all our community partners will also have access with a username and passcode, like the PTA, library, rec center, Rotary, Chamber of Commerce. We're going to invite all our partners in to participate. As Nick said, it is free for the district, but if a partner, even if they're nonprofit, if they are charging a fee, they will have to pay $25 per flyer. But the PTO and boosters and I'm not sure about boosters, but the community schools are part of the school district, so for them, they get free access to upload the digital flyers. Now the best part about this is the flyers will be uploaded digitally, again, as a PDF. It's not going to go live until the superintendent's office signs off on it. All right, so if there's an error or something that we don't agree with, we send it back, they change, make their edits, send it back, and the superintendent signs off on it.
So right now, sorry Liz,
Sure.
Mel, what's the process like when you want to get a flyer approved? See, Michelle, that's why Michelle didn't sit in the front this time. It's painful, because what Mel would have to do in the past would drop a flyer off. By the time it got to the superintendent's office, got to the secretary, got to the superintendent's office, and then the approval, then back to Mel to do it, where this will be immediate. I will receive an email, it'll filter to me, and I can approve all the flyers at once from my phone. Approve, decline, or send back for modification.
But after all that, we still have to go to the community school, get the copy center to do it, distribute. It's way easier.
So can I show you two things, and then we can answer questions? I'm going to show you a short news clip of a school district that's currently using it. It's just under 2 minutes, and it will show you what the platform looks like, how they're using it. They actually have a little icon at the top of Peachjar that says how many trees they're saving in that school district. All right, so let me play this, and then right after that, we're going to go to another school district, and I'm going to show you what the layout looks like, so you actually see all their digital flyers. Come on.
Big decision that's saving local schools big money. Good evening, everyone. I'm Paul Enrollment.
And I'm Laura Harris. Tonight, ABC Action News reporter Lauren Marcello with the paper cut that's boosting the education budget.
Bins and bins of school flyers, the Booster Club, track schedules, volunteer applications, all coming home printed with your child. Students can definitely relate to this 9th grader.
I wanted to take home lots of flyers almost every day, and it kind of got stressful because all the flyers kept getting all around, and I would lose some that were important.
And parents share that frustration.
My mom kind of got mad.
But this year, Hillsborough County Schools taking a drastic step in eliminating a big chunk of its paper use. This is Peachjar, an online system where educators upload school flyers and information, then send out email blasts to parents.
You know, last year, before Peachjar started, you would see flyers in the recycling bin in 50, 100 stacks. Now the flyers are not there anymore because they're all electronic.
And there's a big cost savings too. So far, the district has already saved 17 million sheets of paper. That means the district has already saved more than 2,000 trees at about 2.5 cents per copy. That means the district has saved more than $418,000.
You could take that money you're saving and you put it to extra people in the system who can help our kids in need.
And she's not kidding. We broke the numbers down even further, and guess what? $418,000 pays the average yearly salary of about 10 elementary school teachers.
And that will help me in my future.
Students like Melanie may still be bringing home some homework on paper, but everything else her family needs to know is waiting online. Lauren Rosella, ABC Action News.
Can I ask a question? Does this
Okay,
mean
now
that?
this is a high school. I'm gonna pull up the high school. And this is what the layout looks like. So you see a visual of, all the events, which is great, going into your inbox and going to a hyperlink. It's all laid out. I have a chart with cost savings. This is from Staples. We did the per copy, black and white and color, and you can see the cost savings. May I give this to you and pass this around?
So what we did was, as Liz is passing that around, we took what it would cost if you went to Staples, if you were an outside agency. For everybody here, it's free. But what it would cost if you went to Staples and made a black and white copy or a color copy as compared to Peachjar, and you could see the difference. So everyone here, it's free, but if you are an outside agency or somebody, I keep using Joe's Karate Shop down the street or Joe's Karate Studio, and they want to send flyers out to everybody in Fair Lawn High School. If they wanted to send copies out to everybody in Fair Lawn High School, 1,477 students, if it was black and white, it would be $88.62 for them to make copies at Staples. If they wanted to do it in color, it would be $339. Through Peachjar, an outside agency that's looking to make money, it would only cost them $25, and it would go to every student in Fair Lawn High School. So there would be a significant cost savings. In addition to, I spoke with Mike Shansky at the community school and said, what is it like for our PTAs and our PTOs? And Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, or Mel, but you pay a fee up front at the beginning of the school year, correct?
Yes, the elementaries do.
Elementaries do.
Because they do a lot of copies, but the middle and high school pay per job.
Per job, or in the beginning of the school year, no more. It would be free. So there'd be a savings to the PTAs, PTOs, and all of the schools. So this is just, this is an opportunity for us to do what's right for the environment, but also make the information accessible quicker to you.
You're only considering the paper, consider the contracts that you have for the copier machines.
You're right. The ink,
And,
everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
You said in a fortune.
Yeah, I just have a question regarding, so for the high school PTA, we have an email system we set out. And we have it set up that we can email out just freshmen, just sophomore class, et cetera.
Right. It's
Are
not-
you
it's
able
not by
to,
class.
because I'm thinking about how many copies go out
Right.
in any given week? Like, are they archived after a certain point? Can they go in and delete them? Because for someone to go in and try to find what they're looking for.
So it's archived for 60 days. They do it per school. They can't do it like third grade or fourth grade or fifth grade. It's just by the school. And it's so visual, you
Yeah.
can just scroll
Yeah.
down and look and see what you need to catch up on. Yes, sir.
So what that school is doing, whether, like Michelle was saying, whatever grade they're doing, all of them will be up there. So I give, my child's in the 4th grade, I can just click on whatever's for 4th grade and have that printed out
Yes,
myself.
it's by school.
Okay.
Right.
Jeff had his hand up earlier.
Yes.
Hi. With this, once this goes live, are all parents to assume that any flyer that comes to us by paper is invalid
So
or has not been approved?
what we
Doesn't-
wanted to do was, We wanted to do a grace period, maybe like a marking period, like there's still maybe potential flyers going home. We don't want to just rush this and everybody gets very confused. So even if like somebody came from the outside and said, I'm here to drop off the flyers, and it's like, oh, sorry, you have to go do this. They already paid, we're going to say, that's no problem, but after the first marking period, this is, and we're going to have flyers that explain the process to them so that they know. So there's a grace period for people to understand that this is the direction we're going in and transitioning to it.
There will be an introduction letter for parents, yes.
Who is going to be inputting all of these email addresses into the database?
It's uploaded through Messenger, the IT department works with Messenger.
Okay, and what happens when there's a change of an email address? That happens quite frequently to people. They do change their email addresses. Is there going to be some kind of a way of... And what happens if the emails get returned undeliverable?
Right. So we have just had some preliminary meetings, and Kathy Tobin was checking up on that.
Okay, thank you.
And I believe right now, parents, and maybe the parents in the audience can help me out, are responsible for updating your information in School Messenger each year.
Okay.
So we ask the parents if there's a change in a phone number or an email, and then if School Messenger speaks with this,
They do.
it would then transfer over.
This product works hand in hand with School Messenger.
Mike.
So I have a couple of things. I like the idea. One question I have is, so if the high school PTA wanted to send something out to one grade by email, the PTA could still send an email out, can't they?
On their own?
They could send an email on their own, sure.
Like they do now, like they do now.
We have our own email.
Yeah,
Like
you
they,
could-
like
if you
they
wanted
do
to,
their
you
own
could.
email
Sure.
and
Sure.
the only thing I caution, I love the idea, anything that streamlines stuff.
Mhm.
I just hope that we're not going to too many different platforms between School Messenger, Genesis, whatever, real time, Google. I just hope that, we keep adding different platforms, and I hope that they're all working together, because if they're not working together, then it sometimes defeats the purpose.
Mike Chansky and I spoke about that this morning, about the difference between School Messenger and Peachjar and what that would be. Whereas one may be more geared towards alerts, and this may be more geared towards happenings in the school district and things like that. Another thing I wanted to add is, just because I said if you're outside of a PTA, a PTO, place, or a school, that there's a charge, that's only if the outside company is making money off of it.
Right.
So if something was happening at the library and it was free, come to the library to see this free author reading about their novel or book, they don't get charged. They don't get charged. But it's only if somebody's profiting off it is where this company would make money off it, because then they're charging $25 per school. Per school. And like I said, I looked at first, I was like, oh, $25 per school. And then when I did the cost analysis and spoke with Mike Shansky, and we talked about exactly what Mark said, ink and time and paper being wasted, it was a no-brainer.
Right. Emily?
Okay, so I have a couple of questions. I'm glad to be talking about this topic. So I know you said you're going to put a link to Peachjar on the website.
Yes.
Can
on
there
the
also
homepage.
be a link in Genesis, so if parents are in the Genesis universe, there's some kind of convenient
I can certainly talk to the IT department and Ms. Tobin, about the back end.
What would the link in Genesis be for?
just if they want to, they're in the mindset of something about my child, and if they see Peachjar there, they might use the functionality. I'm thinking there's going to be some parents who are going to take advantage of this immediately, and there's other parents who might need to see it across several different platforms or hear word of mouth, like they might. So anywhere you can kind of link, I think would be helpful. When you click on it, so I get an email from the school principal saying, check out the newsletters or the flyers for the week, right? Let's say I got that. Do you have to sign in every time?
You're going to get a one-time user and passcode. You're going to make it easy for parents to sign in. So then when you go, as I was told, then once you go back, you just automatically go in.
And have you seen what it looks like on a mobile device?
They say it's mobile friendly, yes. That you can access it through the
I did. When we were at the conference, he was showing Natalie and I how you could see, you could just scroll and the flyers are just flying up, and it looks so nice. It was.
And they don't have an app yet, right?
Not yet. They're working.
Okay. And is it clear clear to parents how their data is being collected, if at all, in the background? Like, is this company profiting on?
Just emails alone.
Yeah,
That's
just
it.
emails, that's the only
Just
information.
emails alone, just to send them out. That's it.
But they
They don't want first name, last name, nothing.
That's what I want to ask.
They don't want.
Are they selling the personal information?
I will find out.
They have to list their privacy policy on the website. Because that,
Okay, yeah, that would be good to be clear on, whatever it is, just so parents know what's happening. Then, a lot of times I think flyers, like that third one up there, has forms. It's not just a flyer, like they're actually asking parents to provide information or money in response. So how would that work in this system? You have to print it out?
Remember, you can link to it and then print it out. You can
Okay.
pull it up and then print it out.
Okay, I might just say it would be helpful to encourage anyone, school, PTA organization, to move into online, like Google Forms or some kind of link people can press and fill out information online so they don't have to print, you know,
Right.
to try to go paperless on that end too. And this is not supplanting the district's effort to populate calendars still, right? Some people.
This is not.
No.
So, okay, and the functionality with Burbio, like, in this day and age, I just feel like there's a lot of choices in how people receive information, so the more ways you can do it, the better you're gonna get that information out. So it will still sync with Burbio calendar, like people can still follow their school's Burbio calendar and get information that way on events too?
Sure, I wouldn't see why not.
Okay, and my last question is if the district can gather any data on how it's being used to help evaluate it and also to see.
Yes.
Can you get like specific, like how many times this parent logged in?
Because there's something called flyer metrics. So you can see how many flyers were actually open, read. So if a parent says, I did not receive the flyer, you can actually say, you actually did receive the flyer, you did open it, whatever, but it shows data on how much.
collecting information, how do they know that they opened it?
Okay, because I just think maybe it would be a good indicator for efforts to increase parent involvement and see if there's any subgroups of parents who could use additional outreach information
Yeah,
as a
there's
district.
analytics, so you can definitely check that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I want to go back.
Ron.
Oh, sorry, Ron, sorry, pardon me.
2 questions. You were saying outside agencies. So you're talking about like all sports sends a lot of stuff home for all registrations. Would they, if they went through this, would they be, it's not really for profit, it's just registration. Would they be charged $25 per school? I'm just asking a question. They would be charged for $25, so they could still send it home then by paper themselves.
They could send it home by paper for probably like the first market period if they dropped them off at school.
Yeah.
But I mean, if they went on their own and just mailed them to families, they could.
No. They, when they go through the schools, they send it out, the rec department sends it out to the schools, like, they print them and give it to the schools.
But only for the grace period, for like the first market period, and then we're gonna just go to a completely paperless e-flyer.
So then they wouldn't be able to do that anymore, they would have to go through this?
They would have to go through this.
And they would get charged $25 per school?
Yeah, but they wouldn't have to pay for the printing and the
No,
copy.
I understand that, but I don't understand that, because it's a town rec program, it's, you know what I mean, it's for the kids. They're not making money off of it, it's their registration to cover their costs, so I'm just curious that I personally don't think that's, not because I'm also a member of it, but I just don't think that's, I mean, let them do it then the old way. I'd rather see them do it this way, because I think it's easier, because they really don't, the kids in 6th grade don't get much of this stuff.
Yeah, well, the nice thing about this is something we want to try this year. We think it would be beneficial and useful, and, you know, the nice thing about our contract, if over a year, and we realize, you know what, this isn't helping, this isn't working, we need to reevaluate it, we reevaluate it. But we thought it was a good foot in the right direction.
No, I think it's a good idea, it's one of the bugs that I think we need to look into, that's all.
And we spent a lot of time saying like who falls into what category and who doesn't at times, and it was very hard, and we did try to keep it as broad as possible so we could get as many people in for free, but there are some people outside that are going to be making money off of that. And like I said, I do think that it would actually be cheaper, but it's something for us to look at.
The second question I had, the email and, well, I guess the user password and your password and email, is that going to be like each family can set up their own, or they're going to give you one?
They're gonna give you one. That's the way I understood it. They're gonna send it out, everyone access it one time, and then can go in automatically. So you don't have to remember a username and a passcode.
All right, no, because I was going to say.
I'm sure you can.
I'm sure you can.
Because I was going to say is that one we did with website for my state association, which for years was a pain in the neck. And we went to is that basically you put your email in and you set your own password up and then you're done.
Yeah.
Because in the years past, what happens, they would change the password and everybody wouldn't get to know. We got 975 members, so I just like it that I got a little bit more control over it. So.
Sure, I'm sure you can change your passcode. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to go back to what Emily was saying. I do have issue with the privacy part. Even though it's just an email, there's plenty of demographics involved with you and what you click on. If you're constantly clicking on the 3rd grade and the 2nd grade, the company knows it can sell that and say, hey, here are parents of an 8-year-old, right? You know, I really like this idea, and I don't think we should have any paper in front of us. It's not necessary anymore. But at the same time, until I know that there's a privacy policy that's good for our parents, until I know that they're not gonna have to sign off on something that they don't want to or don't get any school flyers, then I'd wanna hold on to my vote until I see that privacy policy, because it's our job to protect those parents here, and until we know that, I don't think we should move forward with it.
So I'll get more information on the privacy and come back to you, but I don't think that's the case, and I don't have the language in front of me, but I will look into that and get back to you.
I just wanted to get this straight. You're saying that once you log in, you need not log in ever again.
That's what I was told.
So if you're doing that, then it's as if you're open to the internet every day,
Right.
24/7.
Right.
So you're more likely to be hacked or so if that's the way you're going.
I will definitely report back to you on all the specifics. We had an initial meeting, we had IT people in there, and they were focused on all that. I was focused on the presentation and talking to the, community partners, who has to pay, who does not pay.
Well, I agree with Jeff. I think we should hold off on this until we have all the information given to us so we can, do our due diligence now and make a correct decision.
Sure. Anybody else?
Elise.
Oh, Elise.
I'm just curious, because we use, like real time, I think, right? And they have parent interface, so we should have, or I don't know which Genesis,
We do it through
right?
Messenger
Because
right
I
now.
think the PTAs should be able to upload a flyer to that, or something like for PTAs to use something like this, and like a principal, like however we're sending the report cards home. Like a principal sending out a flyer, I don't know, I can't think of anything offhand, that something's going on in the school that's school related, like there's the winter concert or the art show or something. That could actually go out in the interface that is the same place where the parents see report cards, because those programs have that capability, and this could be for all the fun stuff.
So
I think part of that was the principals would still need to get permission from you, right? So then they would have to hand it to him, and he'd have to sign it, and then they'd have to upload it into Genesis.
So in here, you make the flyer as well?
you can.
You can, but
Okay.
it's just a little bit more of an immediate process, so that you don't have to print it out, drop it off, wait for the superintendent to sign off on it, and then the principal would have to upload it back again into the Genesis portal.
I don't have a problem with it, I just was curious about.
Peachjar, right off their website, Peachjar is committed to keeping your personal information protected. We do not sell or share user data to any third party. We're not required by law. We protect personal information using reasonable security safeguards against loss, theft, unauthorized access, disclosure, copying, use, and modification. Only school district approved flyers are posted and distributed through this system. You've been waiting patiently.
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions. I think
Because he's been waiting 10 minutes, Mike. He's been waiting 10 minutes.
I can wait 11.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so there's you guys have raised some good points. Security, multiple platforms. So how many platforms are used to communicate with parents? There's Genesis, which I don't think it is, but it's a way for parents to do something. There's School Messenger, and what else?
The district website.
Okay, so that's 2. So
Burbio.
3. So unless this
We're not pushing Burbio.
But
2.5.
Burberry's using you,
So unless this platform eliminates one that's already in existence, to add it doesn't necessarily seem logical. I understand the concept of eliminating paper. I don't necessarily buy into the environmental aspect. I would buy into the pocketbook aspect of it more. But if I get messages through School Messenger and Principal Lindsay attaches 6 PDFs, there they are. Why do I need this if those PDFs or announcements are already attached to the blast that Principal Lindsay has put out saying, it was a great Tuesday, the sunshine? You know what I mean? Like, why is this necessary? If I'm not, if a PDF comes and I'm not paying for it, right? So I'm a little confused at
This
this.
is streamlining the process a lot better for Fairlawn. Right now, as I said before, somebody wants a flyer approved, they go to the community center.
But that's the
Potentially,
appro-
let me finish.
That's the approval
Let me
process.
finish.
Okay, sure.
Potentially, they go to the community center, they go to Staples, they run off copies, it costs them hundreds of dollars, $20, $50, whatever. They bring the copies. Flyer has to go to my office, go through a secretary, go through snail mail, sits there until I get around to approve it. Once I approve it, goes back to the other process, and then that information will then get emailed out to everybody. This could happen within an hour, within the same day. This gives you the templates. There's 40-something templates on there if you want to use it as a flyer. This is getting information to families quicker, cheaper, and in just a more environmentally friendly way.
Okay, so then to the question of users, well, to the users, so if you're a parent, does it go to you and you only, or does it go to you and your wife? You know, like, does it go to 2 people?
If you have, you know, 2 children at 2 different schools, it uses your one email and sends one flyer.
Right, but
I can't hear.
Okay, so School Messenger currently goes to me and my wife. We both get it in case something happens. So
Right.
does this work in the same fashion, or do I have to sign up and then my wife has to sign up?
As I understood it from our initial meeting, if you have a child at one school and a child at another school, and it's a flyer for everybody to see, you will get one flyer.
I'm not asking about different locations, I'm asking about
I
different people.
believe it sounds like whatever you have in School Messenger is where it would go to. So if there are 2
Yes.
emails, I would assume that it would go to 2
Oh, okay,
emails.
okay.
Because it's speaking with School Messenger. So
Okay.
the information that's put into School Messenger is what Peachjar uses.
Have you guys done any user acceptance testing on this? Like, in a test environment to see how it looks, or?
No, we're just bringing it up today for the first time.
Oh, okay.
So this is informational to the board, and obviously there's a lot of questions.
Sure.
It's not like it's gonna start tomorrow.
Right, I understand.
So I think that
Okay.
we're gonna go around, there's a few more comments from the board, and then Ms. and Nick will get it back to us in August with some answers to the questions
Oh,
that we might
okay,
have.
cool.
Mike?
All right, so, again, I'm not totally against this. I do have a couple of concerns, and some of the concerns that have been raised, and like I said before. One thing I have to say is, and unfortunately, sometimes I go back to my district because, that I work in, because it's stuff that I know. What they do with all this stuff that gets approved by the superintendent is they, right through real time, they use real time rather than Genesis. Right through real time, no, I'm sorry, on the school website, they do a Friday folder. And it gets scanned in, it's a Friday folder. The parents know every Friday to go to the folder and all the flyers will go out. This, important, something that happens during the week that has to get out, gets out through with School Messenger or the likes. Very simple, it doesn't cost like the All Sports, the rec department or anything they just have to get it approved and it gets scanned in and put on this Friday folder. I'm not saying that that's the best way to do it. I'm saying that's just an option because we're asking people to go to our website for stuff to begin with, and that actually gets the parents on the website too, which is something that I like. I don't know if that's the answer. I think that charging All Sports to send something out to the elementary schools to cost $150 a shot, or $175 when you include Edison, I think that's a lot of money. And yeah, you have this, But that's not what all sports is paying, because they're not going to Staples to do it. The town is doing it. So I just think that aspect, depending, if Joe Schmo karate school wants to do it, yes, I get it. But I don't know, we're in the business of kids, so.
I think this is a nice intermediary step to when they actually offer an app. I can see, I think a lot of parents are on their mobile devices now, and if they get a little pop-up from the app that a new flyer's been, just press it and look at it, and it will be really seamless. You won't have all this email, you have to log in. So I realize they're working toward that. I think that will be a good, like, have obvious value. What I would ask is the administration considers the answers to the questions that have been raised by the board and the community, that I would feel more confident moving forward with this district-wide, like super enthusiastic about it, if we did have some parents test it and maybe some PTA leaders click through and try to create a flyer and upload it to make sure that it makes sense
So
on their end too.
let me just clarify something. The reason why this is free, this isn't free for every school district. We are the first school district in New Jersey. They were looking to partner up with us in New Jersey for obvious reasons, because they wanted to get out. We understand that. If we're not the first district in New Jersey, because they were trying to partner up with us, it's $7,500. This actually wasn't even on the agenda for a vote, because there was no money or no contract along with this for what we were looking to do moving forward. So this wasn't even on there for a vote, because there's no contract, there's no money whatsoever. If we wait, and that's fine if this is what we decide, it's not going to be free moving forward.
Just to clarify, I think we're planning to have a board meeting August 14th. So and we have Liz Ferre, who can maybe a small, even just if it's not possible in the timeline. I don't think we need to delay the plan to try it this year. I just think it's on the, and part of what boards do, of course, is liaise with the community and really pay attention to this community district interface. And so I think it's logical that we all have a lot of opinions about this. I want to make sure that it's a solution that's actually going to solve problems and not just substitute one set of problems with another. I don't think it will, but I'm just saying it would be helpful to have a little bit more information before the board can say like, yes, this is what we're going to do. Yeah.
Ron and then Jeff will go back to the audience.
All right, so everything else I agree with. I mean, it's a good idea. I think we have to work out some bugs, but if you log on from different devices, does it remember your password, or do you have to?
I don't know, I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, so we need to know about that, and you will, the superintendent will still have to approve the flyers before they go up, correct? Okay.
This is something that, oh, sorry, go ahead, Ron.
No, I'm saying, and I'm just saying, I have a child, I know Jeff has a child in school, I'm saying, if you want, try, no, I'm saying, let me do a test case or something, I'd be willing to do it, so I'm just letting you know that I'm open.
And I can't reiterate again.
And I think it would be good to have board members try.
One of the first things we did was, we asked about the security question. So I misspoke for a second when I said there's no contract. There's a contract, because it talks about all the security. There's no money on the contract, because we're getting it for free. This is something that we were just looking to try. 6 months, if we're sitting here saying Peachjar is the worst thing in the world, why do we do this? And we stop using Peachjar, and we go back to the way we were doing it. Something new, something innovative, something good for the environment, something good for our bottom line. So it's just, something we were putting out there.
Put me on your list. As long as the security concerns, I'm okay with this. This is really, the administration wants to run the district this way because they feel that this will be a smooth way for them to do it. I don't have a problem with that. I think in terms of passwords, I'm pretty sure that you can tell your phone or your device or whatever to remember a password. Every device does that, even across, like even if I put it on my phone, it's gonna go on all, I don't even have to put it in my computers or my wife's phone. It goes in there. And I think we just need to remember, even though there are a lot, and I'm kind of I don't love all the different platforms, but at the end of the day, you sign up once, and then you just get an email. So you sign up, you get an email. So it's not like, we can't keep talking about this like we're gonna go back and sign on. We're not. You're getting an email. So you open up the email, there's the flyer, and then you read it. Don't read it, that's on you. And so I guess, besides the security, I don't really see that much of an issue. If if there are complaints, and again, it's not 6 months, it's not costing us anything. So, that's what I got.
Michelle?
I just had a couple questions. Are you able to, you said you can upload to the school. Can you upload it to everybody? So that everyone gets it?
Yes.
That I love, I think it's great, because we have different fundraisers that can be for everyone, and for the sports also, that idea is great. The other question I have, you said you get an email when something is uploaded, or no?
No, you're gonna go into the interface.
So you don't, if something new gets uploaded, you don't get an email telling you that?
I mean, if that's the way that we want to.
No, that's what I'm asking, because if someone uploads, different
It go-
organizations upload
It's
10
situational, so you can decide as the administrator of your building, if you're like, oh, I want to send this out right now, we need to get this out, you could get it instantaneously. If you want to send them all home at the same time and send them home at the end of the week, every Friday you're going to get every flyer, you can get them all in one shot, and you just scroll through all your flyers.
That's what I wanted to know, I
Yeah.
just didn't want like 10 people uploading flyers and you're getting 10 different emails
No,
saying this. The
no,
other,
it's
yeah.
just streamline it all.
The other issue also to remember is not everyone is able to print out flyers. So
And-
we are still going to need to
I
have
know.
hard copies in the schools for certain things
And-
that need to be filled out.
When we talked about that, if we had to have 25 copies there for something like that,
Exactly.
we understand, we're just trying to, you know,
This is still, I think this is a great idea, the PTAs, I can't speak for all of them, but the idea of being able to upload certain things to everyone,
Right.
Especially for someone like Place or Friends of Music or the sports PCA, I think that would work great for them.
And they are not a template company, but there are templates.
Yeah.
On some.
I forgot about Mary. Mary?
Yes, I'm here. So, from what I'm hearing, it's simply a trial run. It doesn't cost us anything. If it doesn't work, we will ditch it. So I simply want to go on the record as saying, I'm for trying it, and I think that kinks could be worked out, and if they can't, that's going to be the end of it. We're not going to use it. So you got my vote. I'm done.
Mary, Elise, and then we'll go back to the audience, and then we gotta move on.
I just want to say that you have my support for this. Obviously, you've been looking into some way to do this in a pleasant way, and you know, I certainly support your idea, and I love the fact that you found something that might work. I think the questions, you know, about the security, I mean, people just don't even read those agreements. They just say, I agree, so they can get into the website, so.
Mark?
I think it's a great idea, but there are questions that the community has as well as the board that I would like to have answered before a decision is rendered. When is the timeline that you need to get back to these people to say that we're going forth with it?
we
Is
already
August
we
14th?
already committed that we were moving forward with this. It was an administrative decision, there was no money involved, we felt that this is the best decision, moving forward to getting information out. But like I said, at any point, we can always say, we don't want this contract anymore, we can cancel, there's no money involved, and we're gonna go back to doing it the same way we have been doing it. So I think it's fair, we'll answer all the questions. I mean, they've been very, very receptive to anything we've asked them, getting back to us immediately.
Well, the thing is, we're not piloting this to 2 people. We're doing an entire district of thousands of people. So I don't know how annoyed individuals will be using this, you know, for 3 months and then taking off from it. But the other question I have is, there has to be other districts in other states that are using this. Have we investigated these other states to find out if these were the same concerns that they had when they first,
I have not benchmarked another school, but I'm happy to do that.
maybe we should. That's it. Thank you.
Mel?
I just have a couple of questions.
State your name.
Mel Georgetown. Everly Drive.
Thank you.
So, just to be clear, paper will not be allowed after the first market period?
Yes.
Okay. And to piggyback on something that Mrs. Nappy had said, there is no alert. You need to take ownership as a parent and go and retrieve the info.
I think it's gonna be, it'll be a district decision and it will be a school decision. We're really trying to eliminate all these additional emails. You know, if the school wants to send.
Your email would be your alert.
Alert.
No, that's
So
what
you're
I'm
getting
saying,
an
you're
email,
gonna
it's
get
not
an
like
email.
you, like Genesis, where you need to go in there, you know, and view your new flyers.
You
You
get an
get
email.
alerted.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a plus, yeah. And then the upload of the flyer onto this platform equals the NN? That's, oh, the
Yes, yes.
Oh, and
Yes, sorry.
No, it's-
There's a button, there's literally a button, accept,
me a minute.
my initials. There's a button to accept it,
There's a math
decline it, or
problem for a minute.
modify
Okay,
it.
perfect.
Yeah.
And then is Mr. Garcia alerted to all pending approvals? Okay, so wherever you are, okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
exactly. You don't have to
Anywhere
chase
in the
me
world.
down the hallway of Edison.
So
Anywhere in the
11
world.
o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, Nick's gotta approve it.
All right, and how about, will the PTOs or the PTAs have access to, like, if I send out, you know, to say all 6 elementary schools and Edison, do I get to see, like, how many people opened up that flyer from each school?
I can certainly tell you.
Okay.
You will not have access to the metrics, but I can certainly tell you.
Okay, so now, if I find that a lot of the parents, like, cause now, like, so we send a flyer home, and we would like to hope that people are reading the flyers we're sending home, but, you know, I have no way of knowing, so now this will be a way that we can now track through you, right, who, okay, I'm done, thank you. I love it, by the way.
David,
I think this is
state your
great.
name, please.
David Schrader. No, I think, Nick, I think this is a great idea. I think this is something that is going to be a communications challenge in terms of retraining parents on how to, you know, how to receive information, just like anything else. I also think there's gonna be a challenge with all sports, because just from reading their policy, it's gonna be $150 each time they want to hit all 6 elementary schools, and I don't think that's gonna be received well. Yeah, and that's something that from a public point of view, you gotta kind of deal with you know, if everybody has to pay $25 more to play soccer, or play basketball, or play baseball, that's not gonna, I mean, that could hurt the Board of Ed in terms of the way people perceive that, so.
That was my biggest concern or question to them, is how do we get this information out? How do we explain it? And they've spent a lot of time with us saying, this is how we're gonna get it out, this is how we're gonna help you get the information out to everybody, so that people are comfortable and it's user-friendly and
But just
easy to
understand this
them.
all-sport thing is actually not a little issue, because if they have to pay $25 each time, they have to let people know about registration, and they end up passing that cost along to the entire town in terms of registration fees. That's not going to be received well by most of the town. And again, I'm for this, I like this, but just in reading the policy, I don't think there's a way around someone like all sports not paying.
Does all sports pay, like a flat fee for copy?
Town does it. Correct, department does it.
And there currently is no fee for them, for instance.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's something that can be worked out, but I think that's actually a pretty big issue.
I'll look into it.
That, but it's something that's been a pretty big issue. But I think the biggest challenge is gonna be the communication with parents, because I think.
That was my question too.
And then, the other question is, so will each principal have the control of how to, like, right now, we get a Friday folder link test, and I guess, I thought every school did that, but I guess just start,
Yours and Bradford.
Yeah, so,
Imagine that.
so Mrs. D every Friday afternoon will send out, we'll flip an email, say, hey, there's 7 flyers waiting for you, and here's what they are, you can click on this day, you go look at them. Is that?
I'm not sure.
We haven't
Is
worked
it how
out,
that would work?
we haven't worked out those logistics with
I
each
mean, that's
principal
what you're
yet.
talking about.
But we talked to the principals about it and they were very excited for this.
Yeah, so it's, okay, no, I think that's great. So, again, I'm all for it, I just think there are some things you have to work out, and I think that's a good job of what you're doing.
Right.
Communicate with parents, so.
All right, thanks for the questions, and we'll definitely follow up.
I,
Wait.
on Wolfman Allen Place, I just had 2 questions. I think they have been answered. What happens if I lose my phone?
If you have a computer,
Yeah. The thing is that there must be people who have only one device to access the internet. If that gets stolen or lost, what happens? How long is it going to take
Replace it.
to get replacement information on their new phone?
Yeah, we'll have copies. If we had to make a copy for you, I mean, there's rare situations, like somebody said, somebody may not have access to a printer, a computer. We're not gonna be that hard-nosed. We said we're gonna keep extra hard copies for situations like that. We may keep an extra 25 on the counter when you go to the school, but we're trying to eliminate, like they showed in the video, thousands and thousands of copies. It happens here. I can't tell you how many times I make copies for meetings and nobody shows up. And it's just- Yeah, no, it's a good
The
question.
other thing was,
Well, just like, it's the same thing now, because a lot of the
Yeah.
principals send it to them now, but there's still always copies available if parents don't have computers.
the other thing is the other way around. How secure is the information on the Peachjar surface? Can somebody access that and change things?
I'm gonna have to report back to you on that, I don't know.
I think that's.
Well, obviously, if so, yeah, security is important, but there are many school districts throughout the country using it, so I'm assuming that there's some kind of encryption involved. Anything can be hacked. I mean, we all know that. Anything can be hacked. So, you know, security is important, but,
How sensitive the information would be.
well, it's going to be an email address and flyers, so I don't think it's not going to be student grades, it's not going to be your social security number, it's not going to be, you know, your driver's license. Dave, wait a minute. Dawn, did you want to say something? Did I see your hand?
Yeah, sorry. Dawn Ebner, a couple, hopefully relatively quick, but we do use several platforms right now, and I'm not sure what this gentleman's name is, but if there's a way of eliminating some of those platforms, if we get this into play, that would be really good, because, I mean, I was just going through having 8 or 9 different things that my students my parents use to access information, but the second thing is, on the screen there, it has like a title for all of these different items, all the different flyers. And I guess my general question is, who attaches the title to it? And if there are titles, would it be possible to have a title say, 2nd grade field trip, or 3rd grade field trip, so that way when the parents went in, they didn't look at 10 things and said field trip, field trip, field trip, and they have to go through each one until they find the second, because it's not designated by, you said it's not designated by grade level.
By grade, but by school. See,
Right.
like they've broken it up here by school. Go in.
But you understand? Okay.
Yes, I know, I
It's a descriptor,
understand.
so you would know what it is if you don't want to bother to. glance
Right,
at
I
it.
have nobody in grade, I don't have to, so.
I'm sure we can add naming on it. I'm sure it's
Maybe we should continue.
Okay, and my last thing is.
Too many conversations I came here doing, which is hard to believe.
Is
but-
that hard to believe? The last thing is this simply gonna be for, co/extracurricular? I believe you mentioned that, it's not gonna be, at the high school, we send out a flyer, because there's gonna be a different schedule for the classes when there's testing going on.
Right.
Like we send a flyer home, that's not gonna be on here,
No,
is that correct?
After school and community related events.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I don't see why we shouldn't do it. I understand some of the security concerns, but we certainly will work on that. We're gonna get this for free. If we like it, we continue with it. If we don't like it, we don't continue with it. The problem is, you know, we have to decide tonight, and I think we should just take the recommendation of the superintendent, put this into effect. It's for flyers. And you all know when you had kids in the elementary school, how many times you look in the backpack and go, oh, this was last week. So this email is going to go right to the parents. It's going to be up to them. So let's just start this off, and then, you know, Liz can get some information and have some questions answered next month. But I think there's no reason not to let them tell the administration to go ahead with it. I think so. We're done. Okay. Let's move on.
I only have 2 more bullet points to talk about, so this should be quick.
No, that's not.
So, on Monday night, we spoke about the recommendations for the funding formula, and obviously there were some questions, there was dialogue. So we went back as an administration, we looked into them as much as we could in the last 2 days, and come back with a better plan that we're putting before the board tonight, or a revised plan to vote on tonight. It's still the $2.1 million, but what we did was we took into consideration 3 things. 1, the music program, 2, the grant opportunity that Emily brought up, and 3, the REACH program. And this is in addition to what were recommended the other night. So what we did was, there was $378,000 that was allotted to set aside funds for the 2018-19 school year for unanticipated expenditures, which will roll into capital reserve for tax relief for the 19-20 school year, if not expended in 18-19. It was the second recommendation, $378,000. What we did was, we reduced that. We reduced that amount, and what we put $40,000, additional $1,000 into the music budget. So what that will do, that'll help fund instrument repairs. We're gonna reassess the fees for trips and camps. We're gonna reassess the transportation cost and buses. We're gonna look at the music department, and they will have bi-weekly meetings with their supervisor of music and/or the music facilitator. Then we're gonna continue to explore the PFL option for the 19-20 school year. So we're gonna take this school year and look at PFL and say, what can we do for the following school year, if there's anything that can be done. And in addition, we're gonna evaluate our staffing of the music department for the 19-20 school year as well. So right now, we have a plan. We put some extra funds away. What that does is that brings the total music budget to $1.3 million, actually $1,337,811. So a little over $1.3 million. The second thing we're going to do is Emily brought up a good idea of a grant opportunity for the schools. We're going to create a mini grant for each school, 10 grants, one grant for each school for $1,000. Teachers can apply if they want to do something innovative in their classroom above and beyond their everyday curriculum. And we have to figure out what the application process will look like, but then that application can come to the administration, and we could approve one grant for $1,000 to a teacher in each school in Fair Lawn. The last thing is the REACH program. We acknowledge that there were concerns about REACH at the elementary level. Dr. Lacatina, myself, and some REACH teachers that are currently in Fair Lawn are going to go around and visit neighboring school districts and see what they're doing in their elementary grades for the REACH program for gifted and talented, to see what other ideas are out there, as well as to examine curriculum and programs that we could potentially come back and report back to the board of these are our recommendations, if we have any, moving forward for the REACH program.
Okay. Nick, thank you.
You're welcome.
Moving on. When we get to it on the agenda, which is for...
At the end.
It's at the end, F9D. F9D, so we talk about it then. So let's get through the rest of the agenda. Okay.
I'm going to do enrollment. I have to do enrollment.
Oh, enrollment, I'm sorry.
That's
You're right,
right.
enrollment, I
These
forgot.
are for the board members. They're at this table. I'm going to put up the enrollment numbers. Now I have to do the enrollment and the soft order update. I promise you, this is going to last before. Oh, wait, is it powerful? I missed power? So what the board has here and what you're going to see up here are the 2018 enrollment numbers. There were some questions, there was a request for us to present out on where we're at in our elementary schools. Obviously, we did a referendum that'll be 2 years away. Sorry, I'm taking the jacket off for this before I pass out in this room. It's 2 years away, but in the meantime, we wanted to take a look at our enrollment numbers from elementary school to elementary school. And where also, this goes hand in hand with the recommendation that we put aside $300,000 to look at personnel for the elementary schools, which may or may not be additional teachers and or paraprofessionals. But keep in mind, we also have a space concern of whether or not you may see a high number here and say, okay, that makes sense for us to split that classroom, but we may not have a classroom to split it to. So what we're doing here, you're going to see, and we'll talk about our concerns of where we see numbers that are concerning, because you'll see them as well. But that doesn't mean we are going to act on them tonight. And the reason why, there's a couple stipulations. One, we don't know if any students are disenrolling during the summer. So before we go and hire a teacher, we could have 10 kids that move to another town, and then that number drops. So we need a little more time to analyze it and look and say, okay, now we're getting into August, the numbers aren't changing. Where are we at? No, I'll click on the bottom. There's tabs.
First tab.
Thank you, Martha. So this is Edison School right here, where we're starting off with 81 students at Edison School. Yeah. So Edison School, there's 81 students here. We are concerned with one of our,
Oh, my
that's
God,
okay.
I'm sorry. That's.
I know, just everybody, we got this. Edison School, there's 81 students. Doesn't look like, may not look like a lot when you're looking at it. However, we are restricted by code, special education code that allows for a certain amount of students in a class. And we have one class right now that is very alarming, and we know that there's projected students that will be moving in that will potentially put us over code. So there is a need for a class that will potentially, we will add an additional special ed teacher here, or a recommendation will be made. Otherwise, we will be out of compliance with New Jersey special ed code. So, we can move on to Forest. Forest School's number looks very nice. I mean, you can see the average class, 16 in kindergarten, 20, 18, 20, 20, 19, 18, 18. These are the Forest numbers. Now, before we move forward, I will tell you that there are 42 students, and we're going to get to it at the end, 42 students on a waiting list for soft borders. 42 students. So potentially, there could be 4 students in second grade that are on the Forest waiting list to go to Forest, but they have not been assigned to Forest yet. They could be 4 out of those 42 students. They have not been assigned yet. The reason why is because we have in our policy that students that are grandfathered in, you gotta pass that time. Students that are grandfathered in Fairlawn who may have lived in the Forest School by a certain date get first choice and would go there. So we can't assign those soft borders until we know that all the grandfathered in students actually registered. The recommendation I'm going to make to the board is next year, this school year, we take another look at that policy. Because that policy is concerning to me, because what it's doing right now is back to what I said earlier. We cannot split a classroom because we don't know if all those grandfathered in students have actually registered. So we want to recommend or take a look at that policy to say, is there a date for those grandfathered students? And if you haven't registered with all the notices you have by then, it's not fair to the students that are soft-bordered, and maybe we need to take another look at that. So I'm going to take a look at that, and hopefully the board supports that we can look at that policy for the next school year, because as of right now, we're going to be letting people know later in August, okay, nobody registered at this point, none of the grandfathered in people, now you're going to be placed in Forest School, your home school, or you may have to go to another school because of the class size. Lincrest? So, Lincrest, numbers look good as well, 20, 21, 20, 16, 23, 21, 23. Milnes is getting up there. Traditionally, in the past, when it went over 25, classes would be split. You can see here, in 5th grade, 25, 26, 26. So at first glance, you would say, all right, we have to split 5th grade. But now what happens if you split 5th grade here, and we make a recommendation to hire a teacher, you split 5th grade, and then all of a sudden 5 grandfathered kids move into the kindergarten. Now you don't have another classroom for the kindergarten students. So what I'm proposing is that we wait. We wait because we may very well have a couple kindergarten students who move in, and I'd rather wait, and if we have one classroom or if we have to be crafty with it, I'd rather split a kindergarten class over a 5th grade class and then support this class with a paraprofessional if need be. So this is why I am waiting with my recommendations to that $300,000 that we set aside.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Isn't there a kindergarten, an actual law that 25 is the highest it could be?
No,
Or something? I thought kindergarten.
You need
Is
an
there?
8 and you're after 25.
After 25, but we don't split.
Question there. Very concerned about 25 in a class in kindergarten. Like, bless that teacher, those teachers, because for the life of me, that's an impossible job, and getting kids off to a pretty rough start. So are we assuming that that's probably going to be split into a 4th class, or because I don't even know where to start 25 in a kindergarten class is extraordinary.
It's concerning. It's concerning, but, you know, we have to, like I said, we're, you know, let's go through the other schools, but yeah, no, we're taking a look at it. We're taking a look at it. Radburn numbers, look nice as compared to, you know, higher grades. I mean, kindergarten, 22, 21, 21, 23, 23, 19, 21, 19, fifth grade, a little bit high, but still not bad. Warren Point numbers are high. Kindergarten is okay. First grade, there's 4 sections. Second grade, we just split. That's why there's 19, because there's 76 students in there, 88 students, including special ed. And I need to point out that this column here where you see LOD, that means at some part of the day, those kids may go in and push into that class. So it's not accounted for in these numbers, but at some part of the day, those kids may, if it's part of their IEP, push into that class for a period of the day. You can see 3rd grade, 5th grade. I mean, the numbers, we don't know. If grandfathered students come in, those numbers may be high, and then once again, we may have to look about splitting a class there.
You have 19 homerooms or 20 classrooms, which is fine.
I'm sorry, what's that? 19 homeworks.
The 20 classrooms is fine, yeah.
That's because we just had the other second grade.
Oh,
All those words.
it's on tonight's agenda,
Yeah.
so there's some grades, so probably do that.
Are any of the LLBs, I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
Brian.
go ahead, Mark, go ahead.
Are any of the LLBs pulled out rather than pushed in? Pulled out for
Like
service?
some of these numbers, like if there was like
For
an
the LLD
19.
kids, are they being pulled out, some of them, or are they only being pushed in? Yeah.
You mean, are they mainstream in here? Yep.
So they're already in a self-contained program, so it's only for specials, art, music, media, and sometimes science and social studies, depending on their ability, that they will push in.
That's more than? Oh, Ron, sorry, Ron.
You're saying grandfathered and students. You mean that somebody that lives in the town and like say is in the Forest District but then moves over to the Westmoreland District, if that's the grandfathering you're talking about?
No, I believe the policy was if they live.
I know, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just if they lived in town prior to last July 1. So
Yes.
sometimes a child might go to a private school.
Yeah.
And then the parents decide to
I
live
understand,
here.
okay.
They would be grandfathered in
Okay.
because they've lived here.
But let me ask you a question though. If you have, let's just say like in a school, like, let's just use Lindcrest. You have somebody that lives in Lindcrest, child goes to Lindcrest right now, and they sell their house, they move over to Mills. So there's a crowd. Would you allow them to stay in Lindcrest?
So we have several requests from families who say, I moved to Mills, but I want to stay in Lindcrest. And what I'm doing is, similar to the soft borders, I'm holding on to them, I have a folder, and it actually is situational, because it could actually help the numbers and help soft borders at times, where there could be, if you went to a Forest or a Lindcrest, and there's 16 kids in a class, it very well, even after soft borders, it may help a Warren Point out, or a Westmoreland, and the family's requesting it. So you need to take all those things into consideration, so I have a folder of parent letters who request things like that.
Right, no, because I just think, I mean, if you have the room, let them stay there, they're comfortable there, and why would you put them in, add more trouble to another school that's out? Because I already know somebody that's called me and asked me that question, and I was gonna email you, ask you tonight.
Yeah, no, please, just like I said, Wendy's holding a folder of parent letters, and I review them on a weekly basis. And Mike Shansky and I, we're constantly looking at this on a daily basis. And trust me, the principals are calling us on a daily basis as well. Westmoreland, kindergarten's 23, 24, third grade 23. We're monitoring that kindergarten. We're keeping a close eye on that. And I have a list highlighted on my desk sitting there of all the ones that I just constantly look at on a daily basis.
I have to say I'm having a little bit of a panic attack here on behalf of the entire district because these numbers are really like right at the margin. I feel like we're playing a really dangerous waiting game where, I mean, we're right on the edge here, and I don't know how we can't be planning more aggressively for the worst case scenario with these enrollment numbers happening, because You know, looking at Westmoreland as an example, 23 kids in a kindergarten class, 24 kids in a kindergarten class. I mean, you add one more kindergartner, and they're both at 24, and that's big for kindergarten. I mean, technically it's legal because it's less than 25, but I don't think anyone in Fairlawn who cares about our schools would say that that is what is acceptable to our community. And I think we should strongly be pursuing contingency plans and creative solutions. Now, you know, potential budget ramifications, like if we raise taxes above the 2% cap to hire more teachers for enrollment, like we have that money, that's what it's there for. I'm uncomfortable with this kind of, we're monitoring it every day to see when it's gonna tip over the edge. Because I feel like in a lot of cases we already are at that edge, we know that. And the disenrollments and the changing, you know, maybe a little bit, but I think the risk is much more likely that you're gonna get late registrants who are entitled to their neighborhood schools. And if you can soften the soft borders, you know, if there's, I can't tell from the, I guess, yeah, from this last slide, like if the 9 kids at Westmoreland, if 3 of them are in kindergarten, if you add another class of kindergarten, you can actually spare those children from the ramifications of soft borders entirely, which is good for them too, and good for everybody. It kind of solves 2 problems. So I'd just like to encourage the administration. I mean, I really thank you for being willing to share this information and to be able to communicate about it. That's how we, you know, got to good spots. But I just want to reiterate, as a board member, I'm pretty concerned that that something's going to have to be done, and we should be planning aggressively for it now.
I'm going to reiterate Emily's sentiments. I know that there's going to be, I have to say, as unpopular as it is, that there are things we got to do. We can't just sit on our hands now. This is a time we actually got to do something. These, and it's not anyone's fault. I mean, again, as we say, we're victims of our own successes. But at the same time, we're going to have to look at the lines of the district again to see where things fall. We have another $1.3 million that we could be using. And again, if they're unpopular, they're modulars, but they're a space for kids to go that isn't a crowded classroom. Before we vote on that $1.3 million, we should really consider what it's going to cost to alleviate that class size, because at least, I know the town voted for the referendum, it's nice to give them that money back, but I think it is better spent alleviating these large class sizes and giving them a more proper education, because kindergartners are just not going to get what they need. And I'm going to say that another major issue for having the large kindergarten and first grade classes is teachers, despite how skilled they are, and I say that in the affirmative, they're going to have a very difficult time, a more difficult time finding kids who need more help, finding the social emotional problems, because you're going to have 25 5-year-olds in one. Oh my God. Like, that makes me sweat.
That's why we're going to continue to look at it. If we have to split a class, if we get to that point, we will.
But space is going to be an option, an issue, right?
We're being very crafty and looking at floor plans and everything.
The North Quarters number that you got up there, those are the people that moved into the town after the date, and that they might not go to the, is that the ones? Because we're talking 2 different, we're talking grandfathered, and then we're talking South Quarter. So which number is this one? I want to know.
So these are the students who have moved into town after that July 1 date.
Okay, from last year.
Now, and again, to clarify, Nick had said it earlier, there may have been space in that particular home school when the student registered, but because we don't know if there are grandfathered students that are entitled to that space first, they've just been temporarily soft ordered. So
Okay.
some students, even though they're on this list, will indeed go back to their home school.
Okay. I mean, I'm as concerned as anybody about it, and it's tough with the numbers. You know, listen, I'm going to say something that I know it's a different society, but many years ago, when we were growing up, there was 25 kids in a class. Okay, so let's all relax a little bit. I know it's a different time, but the other thing is, space is the problem that we have here. And just to answer you can go to modulars. You can't just drop them. It's not going to happen by September. That's the problem.
I understood.
No, I'm just saying, it's just not
No, I'm not having back and forth.
I just made a comment, that's all.
I know. I know.
Mr. Campbell?
Mike was on. And Elise.
So, first of all, thank you, because July last year, we didn't necessarily know that this was this. So to me, you are looking at it, and you tell us that you're looking at it every day, so I'm sure there should be, maybe there should have been one more slide which shows what classes these kids are in, but
I left it off on purpose.
It's a lot, yeah.
Because there will be one student, I don't want anybody to be able to identify, but I know the
Correct.
student.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know what, that actually makes sense. I think the biggest problem, obviously, we want lower class sizes. The biggest and I think this compares well to last year. I don't think there's much of a difference between last year and this year, am I correct?
I feel like Radford may have been more crowded last year.
So Radford's a little less
I
crowded.
feel like Radford is presented a little bit
And
better
it looked
this
like,
year.
it looked like to me like Warren Point might have been a little more last year. But I could be wrong. But anyways, like Ron said, class size, the classroom space is going to be the issue. So good luck.
Elise?
I just wanted to say that, I kind of agree with what Ron said at the end with the 25s. Like, I get it, the concerns for having a kindergarten class of 25. I had 2 students that went to Warren Point School, and Paigey was in the largest class that the district ever had. It was always over 25 from kindergarten all the way up. And she was fine because we put in aides and we put in support teachers, and our teachers are excellent. So I don't have as much of a concern. And also I think being a teacher that's had 40 kids in a class, it's not that I want it to be that way. I'm happy that you're monitoring it. My concern is, and I tried to do this with one of my children. You know, I look at these numbers and I see 16 at Forest in kindergarten, and there might be 4 parents, let's say from Warren Point where the kindergarten is very large, or Milnes where the kindergarten is very large, willing to put their child in Forest for what will eventually be kindergarten through 4th grade. And I tried to do that with some of my friends to go to Lindcrest, which had the smaller numbers at that time, and Dr. Byrne convinced me that it wasn't necessary because it wouldn't be so bad, and he was right, because the 25 kids moved through and they were all fine. And so I understand the concerns and I appreciate the concerns. I've been there. But I'm just wondering if that's just even another option, because you know what the numbers are, like those 9 could all be kindergartners and that makes it 20 and 20, you know what I mean? But that might make, take 2 people from here and put them, I was just wondering if that was something that, that we thought about as well to sort of even it out. There might be willing parents that aren't part of soft borders, that have a sister that lives on that side of town that
See it all the
can
time.
take their kid out.
Somebody's babysitting my son or daughter on the other side of town, it's easier for the drop off, it makes it, we both work. We get those letters all the time. So we really do take it into consideration. I mean, I understand what you're saying, Jeff, I understand what you're saying, Emily, I understand what everybody's saying. If you look at Milnes and you look at Westmoreland, and we get to the point where we say we split those kindergartens, all the kindergartens are gonna have somewhat of a nice size. So I mean, we put $300,000 aside as one of our recommendations to take a look at this. I'm just not ready to pull the trigger on it yet. I think we need to look at it on a daily basis, because if I then carve out space, and we know space is at a premium, then I carved out space, and then 7 grandfathered kids move into a 5th grade or something like that, and I just split that class that never hit 25, then what do I say to those parents? So I really need to slow down and make the best decision on behalf of Fairlawn and for the students.
Jeff and then Mark.
All right, I'm going to address the chair so this doesn't seem combative. And I've said this at a prior meeting. We go after the idea that, well, first of all, I want to say about the modulars, we're not building them for today only, we're building them for tomorrow, because if you look at those numbers, the smaller classes are generally on the higher grades and the larger classes are on the lower grades. Those higher classes are going to continue to come in, and year after year, we're going to need more and more classes. This becomes exponential. So if we try to get the modulars in this year, then at least we'll have them for maybe next year or half of this year or whatever. I don't know how that works. I'm definitely not an expert in that area. But my real issue here is when we say, Mr. Banta, that we used to do that, and then we say they were all fine. And I remember at a board meeting a year or so ago, someone said that and I lost it a little bit. But that phrase makes me crazy because we don't know if they were all fine. We don't know if they were able to reach their potential because they were in high class, with high class numbers. Just because it was done in the past doesn't mean that we don't become more progressive and go after smaller class sizes, because everything we know about education, and you'll not find one teacher that disagrees, and if you do, I don't know where they got their degree, that smaller class sizes are better for students. And because there was more before, that doesn't mean it's good now. It doesn't mean it was good then just because we did it. So I would be careful with the kind of words we use. And if we sit and we know there's a problem now, it's on us, the 9 of us. We know there's a problem. We sit and we do nothing, then, we were the people that did nothing about it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mark.
I understand Emily's concerns regarding the class size and the overcrowding. But as a former principal, I have to say that I also agree with Nick. You can't jump at this point and determine what your class sizes are going to be in September. August is a month where the numbers fly all over the place. You have so many kids registering in, and you have so many kids exiting the school. So he's right in what he's doing. You've got to wait. I don't know what his cutoff point will be in August, but there's a tremendous amount of movement in August. So if the numbers in August show that it is overcrowded, then I'm sure that the administration is going to work towards solving those problems. But once you hire a teacher, now that teacher is there for the rest of the year.
I just want to say this. We've got from the money we got back money that we should have gotten years ago from the state, the 2.1 million. We already did put $300,000, which my understanding is to be 3 full-time classroom teachers is enough for, and 2 aides. We've also got set aside, which was $378, now it's $328 for emergencies, which could be another 3 teachers and another 2 aides. Now, if we have some classrooms, if Nick and the principals can be creative, and maybe somebody's going to go back to art on a cart, maybe music on a cart for the next couple of years till we're done with the building. We have the money for the personnel. We can do it. And yes, everybody I know in education agrees that smaller class numbers are better. It doesn't mean that you have 25 kids in a class that you have a panic attack. It means we have to help that teacher out. We have to get that teacher. We made the the position last year, general education aide. So we hired a couple of them to help out. So it's obviously it's an issue, but I think everybody's got to stay focused. Let Nick and the administration work on it. Like Mark said, we can't make a decision now. You take that class at 24 and 23 and you split them up, and then nobody else comes in. So now you got a class of 16, and you don't want that. So yeah, I don't know what the cutoff date. I'm going to imagine it's going to be whatever the board meeting is in August.
I have one in my right now I'm thinking of, and I'm thinking, I know somebody mentioned the board date before, so we were going to talk about a possible board meeting, potentially pushing the board meeting back in August and setting, I believe, August 21st as the cutoff date, so that we could figure out, okay, this is where we're at right now, and then if we push that board meeting back, if we had to hire teachers, then at that point, then we could hire teachers at that morning. So it's just,
Emily and Jeff, then I'm going to get some comments from the public.
I didn't have my hand up.
Sorry, Emily and Ron. Sorry.
So, again, I just want to reiterate, I'm grateful to the administration for putting this together, and I trust that you're looking into it. I just feel like as a board member, it's our responsibility to just reinforce the values that this is of critical importance. And I know you know that, but I think it needs to be said. It couldn't be said enough. The way I calculate it is that we're looking at maybe needing 6 additional teachers or some combination of paraprofessionals total based on if you had to split all the classes that you said. And I just wonder if hiring 6 teachers, even if it ends up being only 4 teachers with 1 week before school starts, if there's certain hiring processes that can get the wheels in motion now with no guarantees, if those persons have another offer that's more, they'll turn down Fairlawn in the end, but just so we're not desperate to, just to take the first person who applies before school starts. So that's one consideration.
Can I just ask Lisa, elementary school positions, there are legions of people.
There are
And
many.
sometimes it's very hard to, you take the top 3 candidates and they're all really good, and you wish you could hire all of
And
them.
just to address
So,
your concerns,
yeah.
we really do have other people that principals have already recommended that.
Okay. The other thing I just want to say to my board colleagues is that we are a board, I think, that prides itself on equality across the schools, that we like it, it's our value, that what happens in one school is happening in the other school, and if it's working well in one school, why do the other schools get the benefit of that? And if you look at these numbers from that perspective, these numbers as is, even if nothing changed, aren't congruent with that value. And I just feel like as a board, we need to understand why are we willing to push for equality on some issues, but might be less assertive about pushing for equality on this particular issue, if that ends up being the case in the end. So it's just a question and a frame for people to think about in terms of when you feel like you don't, like it's out of our control, or we really don't have a choice here, we make a choice by not choosing.
Ron?
Just to clarify, okay, I know small class sizes are fine. I've always been about that, okay? I made a comment because that's my feeling, but that's that. I also, as the Buildings and Grounds Chairman, way back, looked into modulars, and I will bring up more information for everybody about modulars, about how they go about code-wise, what you need, and how it goes about the cost, and so on and so forth, because I was in rep, and as an inspector, I do all know the requirements of code for it too. So if that's an answer, that's an answer. And the last thing is, I agree with you, I am the same way. I want equal across the board. I care for every child in this district, no matter where they are. So hopefully every one of them gets the same thing, and we gotta do the best that we can. What we got, that's the best. As a board, I think we will, as a board, do that. Thank you.
All right, Lisa and Mary, and then I got a bunch of people in the public want to talk.
So, I'm gonna also address the chair, because I don't wanna be corrected every time I speak by my board colleague. But what I'd like to say is that when we talk about equality, okay, it's equality of what the children are being taught. It's not equality, if I live in my house and I have 4 kids and no one on my block has a child, I can't make 2 people from Radburn move into my street, so there's 6 kids on my block and 2 less kids in Radburn. So it's not equity in class size, it's equity in the learning that I think, for me, as a board member, that's what I'm all about. Like, I get it, there's gonna be a class of 25, and there's gonna be a class of 18, and if we can correct that with the soft borders, then I think that's a beautiful thing. But I want you to know that that is not my objective. My objective is that the students are learning, whether there's 25 kids in their class or 10 kids in their class. And if somebody chooses to move into a district in town, or there's 25 people in every classroom at Warren Point, and there's only 22 at Milnes, and there's 11 in Lindcrest, then that's the makeup of the town. And you can't force people to move from the Warren Point area to the Lindcrest area to make equity in class size. We can suggest that people move their kids because this class is too big, but if I want my kid to walk to school from my house in Warren Point, there's gonna be 25 kids in his class, and as long as he's getting the same education, which is a pretty good education as far as I'm concerned, then I would be happy. So I trust you to make the right decisions for the moving the soft bordered students around, so that it creates some equity of class size, so there's not 24 and 16 or 25 and 16 in kindergarten, if there's some way to remedy that. But if it ends up being 20 and 25 because nobody from Warren Point wants to take their child out, or nobody from Milnes wants to move their child, I'm okay with that. They're allowed to make those choices.
Mary.
I simply wanted to add my voice to what you said, Jean and Mark, and to support the superintendent that he's going to take a very careful, slow, steady look at this. And that's what I am supporting. That's all.
Thank you, Mary. All right, I saw some hands. Probably just state your name, please.
Stephen Brandt. I agree with Dr. Cohen and Mr. Klein, and the fact that I've been to a lot of these meetings talking about soft borders, and I support that endeavor, initiative. I'm concerned about class size as well. I've one going into first grade and one on the way in, soon to be in kindergarten. But I think I think maybe my comments would lend more to the spending of or the allocation of the additional aid, right? I think I was a little troubled to hear that you're reducing unexpected expenditure costs, and rather than taking it from the pool of money that you would give to tax relief, which would be a one-time thing as opposed to something more long-lasting. So that's my question there. And I think, to Dr. Cohen's point, if 3 teachers is going to be enough, maybe building in a larger cushion so that you don't have to so that you can take the money for teachers and not take it out of the unexpected expenditures. So you have 2 separate pools of money to use, not having to combine them. So I think my comments really go toward the aid conversation, but also apply to this.
Thank you. Yes, sir, just state your name.
John Campbell, from Irving. So what I'm saying is, I guess the kindergarten is going to, the kindergarten is going to be a hard number, because those are the kids that are registering this year, so we're absolutely sure those are the numbers. The rest of the grades, like you said, I guess children can come and go, and you may be missing 10, 15 children if they move to a different district or out of the school area. So you don't know what the numbers are. Is that kind of what you're looking at? All right,
Technically, we don't know for some reason. One, we don't know, if family's gonna move in. We don't know if families are gonna move out. We don't know if there's kids that are already furlong residents that may be going to a private school and decide to come back and go to public school.
Right.
So there's so many variables right now that we can't just.
So I agree with that, and so my other question is, they kind of stepped on it where there are a lot of teachers out there looking to get jobs. How long would the turnaround be that once you get these numbers that we could install that extra person with people?
We're going to try to look at it kind of at the same time.
Right.
We can't put the cart before the horse, but we are speaking with the principals and saying like, yeah, your resume's ready, which they have piles of, and like, we're literally trying to time this perfectly.
So it could almost be seamless.
And it's not, it's gonna be difficult, because don't forget, there's furniture involved. There's desks. So we have to talk to Brooke and say, we're making desks in here. So there's so many moving parts, but you can't, you don't wanna make the wrong decision.
Absolutely.
So it's coming down to, like I said, we're looking at it every day. And if we have to pull the trigger on one of these, we may pull it on one, but then we're waiting and monitoring another one potentially. But, the same ones that you're looking at, are the same ones we're seeing as well.
Dawn?
Dawn Ebner, I have a couple of things. First, how many, is there a designated number where you would add an aide to a kindergarten? Like once a class reaches X number? I know you said like 25, but do we have a specific number where you would definitely add an aide?
We're looking at 26.
At 26, you would add an aide.
You have to ask at 25.
At 25.
For kindergarten.
At 25.
You have to ask at 25.
At-
Over 25.
Over 25.
Over 25.
That's what I said,
26.
Yeah,
students
26.
And I'm sure you know that I am very much in support of the quality of teachers that we have, but I do agree with Jeff and Dr. Cohen relative to that's a lot of kindergartners in the class. In addition to that, I'm also, I'm not sure your name, Stephen, with the funding, and I know you're gonna get to this later, but the funding, or the use of the monies, the $2.1 million, in the second bulleted item was talking about unanticipated expenditures, and if you don't use it, then it'll be used for tax relief in the future. So I'm going to request that the board considers maybe lower that 1.2 million for the tax relief, and if you don't use it, you can use it the following year anyway, just like you have written here, you're setting aside the funds. If you don't use them, you can use it the following year. So personally, I don't see what harm there would be in putting some of those monies still aside and not immediately having it go for tax. Because if we don't need it, you don't use it, it's gonna go to them anyway the following year. And the last thing is, there are still, Mr. Benton, you mentioned this, that we have to look at some creative things, like art on a cart, music on a cart for a year if we had to. There are a lot of schools that have that already. So
No,
you
I
might
know,
need-
I know,
you
but
might
there are
need to
some that
have-
don't. So,
Yeah, but you might need to have the idea of modulars, and I'm sure that they're there is an expense to that.
It's not just the expense.
Right.
There's a lot of laws that go with
Right,
it, and I've
and-
already looked into it.
Right, but one piece of that is the expense.
Yes.
If you don't have the money to do that, because we threw it all to tax relief, and trust me, I don't live in town, but I pay taxes too, and I don't want my taxes to go up either, but, I think it's just something that we need to consider, so, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Nick, you done?
Hold on.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, the agenda, page 4. G1, G2, no items. S1, S2, no items. S3, disenrollment. S4, approval of attendance at charter schools, various Bergen County academies, Bergen County technical schools. S5, other business. Motion for S1 through S5.
Second.
Members of the board, S1 through S5, questions or comments? Members of the audience, S1 through S5, questions or comments?
Well, I'm sorry, I have a question.
Yes, Mary.
S3. Is S3 the previous meeting that I couldn't attend?
No.
No.
No, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Barbarillo?
Yes.
Dr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mrs. Franco? Mr. Klein?
Yes?
Ms. Quackenbush?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Spindell?
Yes.
Mrs. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Banta?
Yes. E1, attendance at conference, conventions, workshops. E2, approval of extracurricular trips. E3, approval of student, teachers, interns, practicums, field observation placements. E4 through 6, no items. E7, membership dues. E8, summer programs, workshops, summer school. E9, other business, no items. Motion for E1 through E9.
Second.
Questions, comments? Emily?
Quick questions. E7, membership dues. What is the Montclair State University Network for Educational Renewal?
It's a partnership between Fair Law and Montclair State in which they provide us with multiple opportunities for training throughout the school year and over the summer. We get 10 hours of workshops, professional development, interaction with professors from the university that come and work with our teachers, opportunities for grants, clinical faculty status, things like that.
And then my other question is on page 10.
Page 10?
Under E7C, approval of the workshops. So I was, glad to see that there's going to be training on the Sanford Harmony health curriculum update. And I'm just wondering if you could talk more about how that relates to just brief to the implementation model. What are those people going to be trained to do, and then what are they going to do?
So basically, they're working to identify where within each grade level the concepts and the themes of Sanford Harmony already exist within our curriculum. So we identify connections and resources to social studies, health, reading, family life, and so we're making those connections across all the grade levels.
Okay.
Any, Emily?
Yes.
Jeff?
I want to clarify my abstention for E2, extracurricular trips. As in the past, I love extracurricular trips. I think they are an important part to an education. However, I'm abstaining this until I believe that the district needs a clear set of guidelines on those trips, because I don't feel that concern that's not appropriate for this table. However, a concern's been dealt with appropriately or has had any resolution. Should any board member want to know about it, I'm happy to tell you. But I gotta say no.
Say no or abstain?
Abstain, same thing.
And I'm just looking at something, that
All right, I'll say
bottom field trip for grade 7, I don't believe is at a cost to the board. Can we just pull that so I can check to make sure?
Memorial Middle School, grade 7?
Yes, that might be at the student's expense. I believe it's an end-of-year trip, and so can.
All right, so maker and seconder are okay with pulling that part of the motion, wherever you are?
Just the bottom one.
Okay,
Yes, I am.
okay. All right, anybody else, board? Members of the audience?
So we're pulling that off.
Just
Yes,
that one.
the bottom one.
E1 through E9, members of the audience, questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Dr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
No on E2, yes on the rest.
No, not an abstention. correct?
Yes.
Okay. Mrs. Quackenbush?
Yes.
Mrs. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Barbarulo?
Yes.
Mr. Spindell?
Yes.
Mrs. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Banta?
Yes. P1, approval ratification of appointments.
A lot of people.
Yep. P2, approval of resignation and retirements. P3, approval of leave of absences, amendment of leave of absence, rescission of leave. P4, change of personnel assignment status. P5, additional remuneration. P6, other business. A motion for P1 through P6, please.
Second.
Members of the board, questions, comments, Emily?
Quick question, so what's an ancillary teacher?
It's a part-time 19-and-a-half-hour teacher, usually used for basic skills.
Okay. Also, I just wanted to point out that I realize the music teacher position is a replacement, so this position exists, but I just wanted to flag the concern that we have a music teacher that's teaching across the elementary, middle school, and high school level. And I just wanted to ask the administration to look into whether that's the best model developmentally as they look into the staffing for music education moving forward. Thank you. The other question is the special education in halftime at the new position at Lindcrest. I just wanted to ask, does that mean that there's going to be an additional self-contained classroom there? Or is that going to be a floating special education?
Resource and inclusion? What's that? Inclusion.
Right now, Lindcrest has no self-contained class. Okay. And then I see there's a new supervisor for before and after school, which my understanding was we were going to add 2 new supervisors. I just wanted to get an update on the other one.
There is 2. One would be a change of assignment, and one is a new person teacher.
Okay.
There is 2.
Okay. And just to let you know, I'm going to abstain on P1A because of a conflict of interest with some individuals who are being hired, so I'm just going to abstain to keep it clean. Okay.
Ron?
F, I don't understand that. It goes from one person to another. Are they flipping positions? Are they changing
You're
positions?
talking about page 17?
Page 17, yeah, F, P, F, A.
Right.
A and B.
Yeah, they're changing people.
But I mean, it's like one leaving and the other one's taking over? Is that the way it goes? Okay. No, I'm just asking because I didn't understand. Because one was more hours than the other. That's why I was a little confused. So they're going down a little bit now.
They probably work left and then the other person.
Okay. Good, thank you.
Anything, Ron?
Yeah, I called and asked all my questions.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that was the only one.
Just on one of the movements from one school to the other, I know that there's going to be a lot of happy people to see that English teacher going into TJ. A lot of her former students, so welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other board members? Members of the audience? Any yes, ma'am. Hi.
On the secretarial, I don't know if it's, right now to do, but we have Kathy Schofield, I believe, is going to be up for discussion.
Which number are you talking about?
G.
I don't know, any of it's going to be
Secretarial.
closed session, is going to be a closed session?
Page 17, you're talking about G. Talking about P1G.
Yeah.
Secretarial, Gio and Mickle, okay.
I only called because I only stopped here because I'm in the ladies secretarial union. And I just wanted to read a statement from, I believe, Kathy Schofield, who is up. You're going to talk either at the closed session at the end.
We're not discussing personnel in open session.
Okay.
You're certainly free to read your statement.
Well, she wanted me to read it because she's not able to attend.
Sure.
Okay, so I just want to read it for her. This is a statement from Kathy Schofield, Secretary for the District Supervisors. She said, "I'm sorry I could not make it tonight due to a conflict in my schedule and give permission for Ruth Farrar to read the following statement. I was advised by Ms. Panagia that Ms. Garfalo will be housed at Edison and not at the high school as originally planned. Therefore, the offer that was made to me in June is now null and void.
I was also told by Ms. Menagea that my original request for a grade level change will be discussed again tonight during a closed session. I would like to say that my current responsibilities do not compare to the other grade levels, 6 secretaries. I support 5 district subject supervisors, which specialists, as well as supporting 12 of their departments within the district. My original letter of request, which I gave to Ms. Menagea and addressed to the superintendent, also included a letter of support from all my 5 supervisors, and they are willing to speak on my behalf directly to the superintendent as well as the board in support of the same. I also have support from the president of FLAES. Therefore, I ask that you please consider my request, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you. Happy school week.
Okay, thank you. Any other members of the audience? Dawn?
I'm gonna go back to, it's on page 14.
Way back.
P4, and teacher number 8, once again, just to, kind of, agree with, Dr. Cohen and, a teacher traveling to 4 different schools, and I ask that you can reconsider or look at if there's any other possible way to, manage that type of schedule, because whether it be from a day-to-day basis or from a, period-by-period basis. And I know on our meeting on Monday, we had the young ladies here speaking about orchestra and the fact that, their teacher can't get back to the school to do the extra programs, et cetera, and now you're impacting potentially 4 schools where this teacher is teaching and, not being able to give additional assistance to the students who may be in need.
Okay, thank you, Dawn. No? State your name.
Mel George Howard. Page 16 is district behaviorist. This is a a part-time position.
Hold on.
So we have 2 full-timers now.
Full-time behaviorist, let's
We
go.
have 2 full-timers. Where is Amanda at T? Where is she gonna live?
I don't have her address.
In a house, we hope, maybe an apartment.
Yeah, is she gonna be here?
Metropolitan School, most likely, or a combination of Edison and Metropolitan, just for office space, or she both are district-wide behaviors that can work in any school.
Okay. Perfect, thank you.
Anything else, no?
What's a lead bus driver?
Steely
Just
drives.
because I don't know that.
She's the one that drives first.
Oh, good.
Yeah, go ahead, Ron.
They're the 2 main bus drivers that do most of the,
School trips?
well, school trips are really mostly the athletics and extracurriculars. They're the first 2 that come out.
Okay.
They're the first 2. They have most experience.
It's on here. Okay, any other members of the audience? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Rosenberg,
Yes.
Ms. Quackenbush,
Yes on everything, abstain on P1, number 10.
Mr. Klein.
Yes.
Mrs. Frankel,
Yes.
Dr. Cohen,
Yes, abstain on P1A.
Mr. Barbarulo,
Yes.
Mr. Spindell,
Yes.
Mrs. Wallace,
Yes.
Mr. Banta.
Yes. SE1, approval of tuition transportation. SE2, approval of bedside home instruction for classified students. SE3, approval of related services for classified students. SE4, no items. SE5, other business. May I have a motion for adding SE1 to SE5? Board members, questions or comments? Audience members, questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Dr. Cohen.
Yes.
Mr. Spindell.
Yes.
Mrs. Wallace.
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg.
Yes.
Mr. Klein.
Yes.
Mrs. Frankel.
Yes.
Mr. Barbarulo.
Yes.
Mrs. Quackenbush.
Yes.
Mr. Banta.
Yes. F1, approval of acceptance of gifts, grants, funds. F2, approval of discards. F3, approval of bills payable, payroll. F4, approval of bills payable. F5, approval of board secretary report. F6, approval of board treasurer's report. F7, approval of transfers. F8, approval of state submissions requirements. F9, approval of contracts, consortiums, cooperatives. F10, F11, no items. Motion for F1 through F11, please.
So moved.
years. Now we get to the fun times.
Okay, all right. Board members, F1 through F11, questions or comments? Ron was the first hand I saw.
I have a question. The distribution of state aid, was it mandated at all by the state about any type of tax relief?
No.
It was not?
No,
Okay.
just an option.
Okay, it was just an option, okay. And second of all, somebody brought up before in the audience, if we designate, once we designate the 1.2 million for tax relief, that's it, that's where it goes, correct?
Three.
I just
Okay,
would like
what-
to maybe explain that a little bit better. So a designation towards 1920 allows us to take that $1.2 million to assist us in building our budget for 1920.
Okay.
One of the reasons that we're looking at this option was that we felt it gives us the greatest longevity and flexibility.
Right.
So meaning, if we do use CAP as well as, 1.2
Here he is.
million
He's
dollars,
dead now, okay.
it gives us the flexibility to stretch that 1.2 a little bit longer. We know 1920 is when our debt service is gonna hit, and that's going to be, we know we're gonna have to hire teachers for 2021 when the referendum is finished. So our discussions amongst us administration is that this gives us that flexibility to make this 1.2 go through not only just next year, but the next year as well. It gives us a larger platform.
But it can be transferred, like, if you needed it for something, it can be used for that, am I correct?
Yes.
That's all I asked, that's the question I asked. Thank you.
Emily?
So I have a couple of comments, but first a question. So in this version of the agenda, it says that there's gonna be 1.325 of the state aid is used for 2019-20, and on Monday it was 1.2.
So it's the 1.2 and the two items that were designated for 1920. So the technicality of the resolution is really just so that we can meet the guidelines of what the state and the county office is requiring us to do. So you'll see that $1.3 million it has to be to an assigned fund balance that's designated. So what the state is basically saying that you have to use it for 1920. It gets put into our budget software that way.
So, I'm gonna say something that, you know, it's not to discredit the hard work of the administration in putting this together in such a constricted timeline. And it's not in the spirit of trying to like throw a curveball or something. You know, all of us are getting information and we're all changing and evolving in our thoughts and getting new information and thinking about it. I just want to say that if the intention of that it's called 1.2 million of tax relief for the 2019-20 on what was presented on Monday. Now it's folded into this 1.325 on the official.
So if you looked at on the pink sheet from last time, those two items.
Yeah, I get it. I'm just saying the use of the word tax relief. So, you know, if I had to state kind of a core value of my own, it's good policy. Good policy, that's what the board is all about. And if you really wanted a policy that would provide actual tax relief to the Fair Lawn residents, we would be crediting Fair Lawn residents this year. We would be giving back that $1.2 million immediately and not saying it's tax relief because we're going to spend it next year and that we wouldn't otherwise raise taxes to make up that part of the budget. So, you know, it's a little bit open to interpretation whether it's really tax relief. I would say if we really meant for it to be tax relief, we would give it back to them this year, and that would be that. In light of our enrollment issues, in light of the age of our district, we know that we're going to have a need for more solutions to our enrollment issues. I don't think there's any question, in spite of soft borders, in spite of the middle school expansion, we're going to have to do some things around our enrollment issues over the next 2-3+ years. And I really think it's not good policy to intend to give $1.2 million in light of the dire situation I think that we're still in for a little while. with our enrollment issues. I would rather see that money, some of it go into capital reserves, because if you really want to make that money last, it can sit in capital reserves for bricks and mortar infrastructure improvements that will last for years and years to come. And it could be related to needing to build classroom space at some point to avoid having to do things like redistricting, and no one wants to redistrict, so we'll get us other mechanisms beyond the middle school expansion to address ongoing enrollment issues. And worst case scenario, it sits in there and we don't have to raise more money for capital reserves in future years. And we can make other infrastructure improvements like air conditioning in crowded hallways, you know, things that would be on our list.
I just want to, before you go on, so we're not legally allowed to designate it into capital reserves. We're only allowed to do that by resolution from June 1st through June 30th.
Did we miss that already?
We did it for 17-18.
The state
So-
aid can't go in.
But the state aid, it was very clear in their direction that you can only do it from that period of time to this period of time. So I hear what you're saying. I think in terms of long-term planning, which is of course what we're Pat and I are already building a budget 3 years from now, where we're already looking at having the teachers in and how much capital reserves can we have in order to pay down debt service and really limit that tax impact, keeping our budget floating enough that we know we can absorb staff without spiking up a tax impact. So that, like we said, we have $300,000 set aside for salaries, which may or may not be used depending. I think historically, everybody who sat in a school district, like Mark said, is, we know October rolls around, we could have 30 kids that just leave. Even some of the kindergarten registrations. Those numbers are never really solid because sometimes somebody does move or takes another job or whatever it is. So that $300,000 might not be used. If it's not used, it is allocated in 18-19, it will fall to capital reserves at the end of 18-19. The $328,000 that we've now said is for emergency funds, if that's not used, that falls down to our capital reserves.
Why not put more of that 1.2 million in those funds so that if we don't?
So that decision was made based on discussion with our county business official, my colleagues within my industry in the neighboring towns, with Pat, with Nick and Lisa and Natalie, and all of us discussing really strategically long-term getting this money, assuming what if this is a one-time $2.1 million, that's it. Next year they say we can't fund it, sorry, but you got it this year. The way that we're presenting this is what we believe, and from speaking again with the county office, gives us the most flexibility to get this dollar to stretch as far as possible.
I don't understand. You took $1 million, let's just say.
For 19-20. It's gonna get assigned next year for 19-20. That allows us to build our budget for 19-20.
Don't call it tax relief.
But it's gonna be, instead of us having to raise a tax levy, we're having $1.2 million in our budget.
In your long-term budgeting, are you including the possibility of having to construct more classrooms beyond what the referendum allows us to construct? I'll just give a specific example. You still have the issue of Radburn Crossings, the new development with the townhomes. Those kids, there's no discussion of where they're going to be assigned to school. If we need to build more classrooms out to one of the elementary schools so we can zone them permanently to an elementary school, are we planning for that in our long-term facilities in the next 3 years?
Our planning is based on our demographics report, our referendum planning, our long-range facility plan for long-term projects. That's how we're basing our budget.
So I just want to say, as a board member, and you don't need to respond, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but I just need to say as a board member, I interpret that answer as effectively as a no, because the demographic studies say that there are going to be about 70 elementary school children in a complex with 165 3-bedroom plus 1 flex room plus low income, lower like subsidized housing that tend to have higher family sizes. 70, there's gonna be more than 70 kids. How much more than 70, I'm not sure, but I am uncomfortable with doing our facility planning based on those demographic projections. And I think it would behoove us, the board, to revisit that and to make sure we're using this additional state aid that gives us maximum flexibility, that if this middle school expansion plan is not enough to alleviate enrollment issues long-term, that we have some options and we're not reactionary and we're not having to go back to the taxpayers another time to ask them to solve that crisis. That's all I'll say.
Mark?
Yes, Brooke, I just wanted to ask you, piggybacking on what Emily said, is it legally possible to use that 1.2 million that you call tax relief for this current year, or must it be placed in next year's budget?
You can, you're saying make it 18-19 tax relief?
Right.
You can. So the three options that we talked about last time was you can designate 18-19 tax relief, 18-19 an appropriation to our budget, which is what we're talking about for 18-19, or designation for 19-20.
I will say that we called the Department of Education and we spoke with state officials who recommended that we don't do that.
Don't do what?
That we don't put it towards 18-19. They're not telling us what we can and can't do, but they're saying this is our recommendation, and we just don't think it was in the best interest of Fairlawn to do that.
Did they justify why they made that recommendation?
What's the reason?
The discussion was really about flexibility, impacting a tax levy cap by doing that.
Because I agree with what Emily is saying. It's all in your perception. So the next year, when you apply this 1.2 million, they don't know from where you're starting. So in actuality, it could look like it was never really applied. If it's applied this year for the 18-19, they already have their tax bills, they know what it is, and they know that when it's applied, it's gonna be a reduction coming from there. Just something that my fellow...
I'm not sure that, if you did, just to make sure, because it's very complicated, and, I mean, this is what I do every day, and it's still
Right.
complicated, and that's why we reach out to colleagues and really sit down and talk about how to get this to last. If you designate it towards tax relief this current year, that's it. It's a one-shot deal, meaning you would lower your tax levy, and when you build your 19-20 budget, you're already starting lower than where you were, which would in effect almost then just spike you up the next year. Because like we talk about every year with our budget process, there's obligations that we have. We know, $1.3 million goes right away to salaries. This year, I don't remember off the top of my head what the health benefits was, but it was significant enough that it allowed us that health benefits adjustment. So that was the discussion basically with, our state officials, is you can do that, but when you do that this year, if it's not funded, next year you've now lowered your levy. So instead of us starting at an $86 million levy, next year we start at $85 million. But we know we still need $86 million to build our budget, because, so that was kind of the logic behind that and where that kind of comes from.
I place my faith in you and Pat.
I think if the state was clear, if the state said, here's $2.1 million, you have to give it for tax relief, it would have provided all of us with a very clear direction. They didn't do that. They gave us three options. Also with the caveat that we don't know if it's going to be sustained. We don't know that. I can tell you that some of the stuff we're seeing right now, just in terms of our extraordinary aid, is less. They changed the funding formula. Last year they funded at 56%, now they funded us at 50%. So this resolution is what we feel in the administration is really the best plan for forward thinking, future thinking, taking into account our capital reserves, taking into account debt
once again,
service.
it's perception, and I hope our communication expert will be able to relay this information to the public so that they do understand that it is being applied to the following year. The other question I have is maybe more clarification on transportation, 115,000. Is that the bus and the retrofitting that you're talking about?
Yeah, so it was $105,000, and what we decided to do was add the $10,000 for transportation for the music department.
Okay.
So that's why you'll see that budget is $10,000 higher than what we discussed on Monday.
Okay, and 40,000 is for the Friends of Music?
40,000.
It's for the music program.
It's the
Music program.
Music program.
That was on tape.
Did you hear that on tape?
It's 30,000 for the music for repair or purchase of instruments, and the $10,000, which was that grant idea. So $1,000 for each.
Okay, and the last one, tuition. Are we still doing
That's our,
anything with the Bergen?
that's our, yes, but that's in 1920. This 328, what we decided last time, was for emergency use. The easiest way to do it is just allocate it to tuition, special education tuition, because that's where, those are the unknowns. We don't know who's moving in and what cost that could be, and it could be transportation tied to that as well.
And if it's not, that's for special needs students, you're saying?
Yeah, for
And if it's
tuition.
not used for that, where does it go, into capital?
Goes into capital reserves.
Okay.
Or
Yeah.
we could use it for
For regular, for the
Or
staff?
for staff, yeah,
Right.
so say
Like
for
we talked
instance,
about
we
before.
magically find 25 classrooms.
Right.
And we wanna hire a ton of people, that money, we could reallocate that.
Okay.
And say, you know what, we're gonna, take our chances, we need it in personnel. If it comes in tuition, we'll figure it out.
Right. It's one job, I don't know how you guys do it.
Put me on the list.
Okay, yeah, Jeff, Ron, Mary. Jeff?
I think what the state, in their covert sort of way, by telling us it's, quote, like tax relief when it really isn't, and that they wanted to put us to next year, I think that's just a political, I think that's just politics saying, hey, look, we lowered your taxes. I think that's just where that, and those are the reason is, I think that because that's their motive, I'm not so sure that it is the best thing for schools, because we can't always trust those motives and what they're saying. I'm sorry if politicians are listening. So, no, I'm not. I have a question also. If we raise our tax foundation, our base levy, right, $2 million next year, even though it's not costing us, I'm sorry, $1.3 million, even though it's not costing us $1.3 million. Year after year, when we don't get that money, that will be part of the foundation of the tax levy, right? So don't we get hit with it just as hard 2 years from now, 3 years from now, whereas if we're not making that money up,
Well,
we're eventually going to get hit with those taxes.
The goal would really be to,
So really,
again, get this to last as long as possible.
Right, but
and the
we-
way of doing that is really by paying the debt service, because there is a tax impact of that I feel confident that is going to be my target of controlling tax impact. And that's a very clear, I know what my payment is. I know what it is, I know what it has to be, and I know how long I can get us to move forward.
right. It just feels like we're just pushing the higher taxes, not that it's really that much higher or lower down the road. I think if we really wanted to make it last, we would take more of the money out of that 1.3 and put it into revenue sources, which I think would behoove us to continue to talk about using that to build a revenue source. Whether or not the optics of certain revenue sources sound good to the public or not, there still could be viable. They could be viable things for us. And I will say, and I really appreciate that the administration has listened to us and to the public and gave money for Emily's grants, I guess now we've just coined the term, thank you.
Like Emily's List?
Yeah, that's right, the music program and REACH, but there are still other there are needs that are very big to people that are very small to that number. And off the top of my head, if we're going technology soon, we want to go one-to-one, we should start teachers off with computers for all of them, where they get used to using the technology. Anyone who's walked through that high school teacher's room knows that they need technology in there and maybe a livable professional workspace, and I think that goes for all teachers' rooms. Again, that doesn't cost us a lot of money to help take care of our professionals. We can put it to after-school programs, we could help alleviate the cost for aftercare, and also we haven't mentioned more for school security yet. So I just want to throw that out there. Instead of 1.3, we can knock that down 30 cents a month and fund those things and do these things for those people because we can now. Because in the past, when I said, well, we can't give you those computers, we can't fix that room, we don't have the money. We don't have that excuse right now. Thank you.
Ron,
You got me on your list?
you're after Ron.
Thank you.
Brooke, correct me if I'm wrong. The long-range facility plan is a 5-year plan, and that is about upgrading the facilities, correct? Are you
It
allowed?
might be longer than 5 years.
Okay, but are you allowed to add into building or anything, building projects, like building office?
Yeah, we
You're
would
allowed-
need to amend our plan
You
and
would
file
have
it
to
with
amend
the
the
state.
plan,
Yep.
correct, okay. Also, capital reserve, isn't there a limit of how long you can keep a certain amount of money before the state will come back and take it back away from us?
We
If I
have a
remember
limit
it.
of how large of a
That's
budget
what
we
I'm
can
saying.
have.
That's what I'm saying. If
We
you go over that budget, can the state come back and
Yes,
say
I
whatever?
mean, and there was the
Yeah.
year where the state did take
I know that.
everybody's capital reserves money.
Okay, so I just, want everybody to understand that. One other thing is that, I listened the other night to people saying, it's $60 and it doesn't make a big difference on your taxes and everything else like that. And, I went home thinking that that's true, but to some people it does. But actually, to be honest with you, since Monday, I've spoken to at least 5 senior citizens talking about it, and frankly, to be honest with you, all 5 of them said they would rather see it go back into the schools, into programs. I know we can do a lot with the money. The problem is which I would hope everybody understands, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If you don't try to express, give them back to the community, you're gonna get shot. And if you do, you're still gonna get shot. So it's up to us to try to do what's best for the children of this community, and if we can find other ways to use it, then we should use it. That's why I asked, if it's in that general fund and we need it for other things, then we use it for other things. So it's there that we can use it, so that's why we still have the option of using it, so, thank you.
Mary?
2 things that I have. First, I want to go to item F1, and I see that we are receiving a Sustainable New Jersey grant for $1,500. And I've said this at any meeting where we get a grant. It always takes somebody to do some kind of work to actually get the grant. For this particular grant, who was responsible for getting these funds?
Oh.
Hello?
We're thinking.
I think it was our science supervisor,
Yeah, that's okay.
but I'm not
I want
100% sure.
Because again, we don't get grants of 1 cent unless somebody puts extra time and effort into doing the work
You're
responsible.
100% correct.
So, thank you to that. The second thing, for those, and this I'm addressing to the chair, for people who know me very well, I do have some sort of a reputation for actually being rather financially astute. However, when it comes to school budgets, this is an area that I look to our experts, and that is the people in the business office, Brooke, with all her expertise. So as we move forward, I am very confident when I cast my vote yes for the appropriation of the money, that the central office administration, our superintendent, and our business manager, and our assistant superintendent, and everybody else, Lisa and everybody involved, but I'm comfortable that all the necessary thought went into this. I think it's easy for each of us, and I say it myself, to look at an amount of money and say we should do this, and we should do that, and we should do this, and we should do that. Not necessarily understanding the ramifications of our ideas. And that's why I look to the administration to explain, as I feel you did very nicely tonight, the many wonderful ideas that all board members had. They were wonderful ideas. They were important ideas. They were ideas that we had discussed. There was no trivial idea that came from any member of the board. But, again, You took the time to explain to us what is the most fiscally responsible way to allocate the monies, and I appreciate that, and it's why I feel very comfortable in simply accepting the recommendation as it appears.
Thank you, Mary. Cindy?
Yeah, I do want to say, reiterate something that I said the other night, that I was, and I'm still very concerned about it, you know, with moving money away from that block that Brooke was just explaining to us, is that once we put it into our budget, it now becomes something that we have to maintain. If that money goes away next year, which I don't have any confidence that it will be there, or it will be anywhere near what it was now, do we then turn around to with all of the things that we would have done with that money in our regular budget, and just turn around and say, well, I'm sorry, now we're taking it all back? It's very concerning to me to do that. So I think the money that you say we can get more and go further, I would rather do that than to have to turn around to people that we, or whatever, and just say, sorry, we can't do that anymore, and now we have to raise the budget even more. I totally agree with Ron that we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. There are many people that will look at it that say that you have no regard for the taxpayer whatsoever, and then there are people that say, well, I don't care about $3.89 or whatever the dollar amount may be. But I just reiterate again that for every $300,000 of programs and of money in that budget, it is $1 of tax. So it doesn't go very far. And I don't want to be in a situation next year where we're sitting there saying, well, we're just going to take everything that we just gave away, that we just put in. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't. I'm totally in favor of everything that was said the other night. My concern is putting more things in that we're going to have to take care of year after year after year, not knowing whether or not we're going to have the money to do that. And then going back to the public and saying, well, we're going to raise your tax, and they'll say, well, why are you doing that? It's a very, very vicious circle. So I am confident that this has been well thought out. You haven't just decided within yourselves. You've looked to other for guidance, called the state, whatever, and I think the more we can stretch that money out, the better we will be. I'm just very concerned about funding programs that we're not sure we're going to be able to keep, and that would be horrible.
Thanks, Mike?
I'm gonna throw something out there. I'm okay, actually, with the way it is, but in listening to the board, I'm going to throw something out there. It might be radical. It might not be able to be done. I wouldn't mind lowering the 1.3 million, 1,325,000 to 1 million, putting the 325,000 into salaries and benefits, or however you have to do it, to give us more of a cushion. Anyone we hire this year, I presumably we're going to need next year too.
Right.
So that would start building that up. One thing I want to caution is, to me, if you want to call it tax relief, you have to be considering, and I hope you are, that you're not going to go up to the cap next year because you already have $1 million extra. So we're not going to do the full 2% plus $1 million, because then that isn't tax relief. So I would hope that if there's a way not to do that, that people are cognizant, but it's next year's board that has to decide that. So we can't decide that for next year's board. So, but that's my suggestion. I don't know how it would work. I don't know if it's too late to do this.
No, it's not.
That would be that would kind of be my suggestion, and it gives us a little bit more leeway into because we have such a short deadline, it will give you guys, I think, a little bit more leeway on how that money is going to be spent.
Thank you, Mike. Emily?
So, two things and then a question. One is with the music education, which I really appreciate responsiveness to that. Does that include the possibility of hiring a part-time consultant to lead the assessment process? And the same question goes for the gifted and talented exploration that you want to do. I know this administration is super busy with a lot of things, and I just worry that without investing a little bit of money toward buying more time for someone to move that along in a comprehensive, systematic way, especially if, like, for example, with the gifted and talented, you're going to go to other schools, which is great, but it'd also be great to be able to have forums for parents who are involved with the REACH program and hear from their perspective of what's working well, what's not working well. And these things will just take administrative time. So I just want to, now that we have the money, if you can do it right. Also, as a board member, I would like to see like a more formal report on what you learned on those two programs that I know takes time to prepare too. Beyond just like a conversation or a bullet point on a slide or something. So I just wanted to ask if that's still on the table of possible.
I'll look into it.
Okay, thank you. And then I guess my final question, just as I consider my vote, if it's $1 million or 1.325 million, whatever we decide as a board between those two numbers, just there's no other mechanism that administration can think of to ensure that that money goes toward the priorities the board is spending on schools. We're no longer calling that tax relief, right? That's just unallocated funds that's going to be built into next year's school budget. And that the administration will present to the board next year how they want to use that money. But there's no other way to call that money or earmark it for certain things or not for certain things that we could do now. It has to just go into that generic, this is.
It goes into that, yeah.
That's the only thing.
At this early of a stage, yep. And it's basically gonna be for the state's ease of reporting. So they're basically putting it all in that one bucket. So when they look across the entire state of New Jersey, they'll be able to see how every district spent the money. So it's really a tracking device. So even though what we're saying here is 1.2 for tax relief and $125,000 going towards those two programs that we spoke about on Monday, at the end, the state is only going to view it as this one bucket.
It's called assigned fund balance designated for subsequent years' expenditures,
Exactly.
meaning we will not have to raise taxes by that amount of money
Exactly.
in the subsequent years.
It's going to automatically be built into.
So if we were gonna raise taxes $3 million at some point, say, well, no, it's only gonna be
Yes.
$2 million.
Exactly.
1.8 million.
Exactly.
Because that will be, money will be used to alleviate the tax burden.
It's I know we disagree on this, but it's a hypothetical tax relief. I'd rather call it unallocated. I'd rather call it funds that we plan to use in our schools in the 2019.
That's a long title.
Assigned
I
fund
think
balance
we just
hyphen
want-
designated for subsequent years' expenditures for use in 2019, 2020.
For our schools.
Just a point of information.
Well, I think that's, isn't that, you have to call it this.
That's exactly
You can't,
what
I
we
don't
have
think.
For
to call it.
administrative purposes, but as a board and for a community, I think there is importance for us to kind of conceptualize what this money is actually going to be used for in the 1920 school year. So when we go over that, we have some values that we want to see that money used for. Which for me, and I think for other members of the board, is that we want to use that to address our goals as a community for our schools.
Okay.
Yes, but they're probably gonna use that tracking device also to see what districts do, and they're gonna make that decision next year, like, hey, you don't want to use the money when we say, well, we're not gonna give it to you. How's that sound? Trust me.
And that's pretty typical, like, it's, we know that in budgeting, that if you don't spend all the money in your department, they're gonna think you don't need it.
Yeah, I love that thinking, yes, I know. Elise?
So I just wanted to say, the REACH, there used to be REACH committee, so maybe we should reinstitute, I know there's REACH teachers and, parents were invited to meet, and maybe we should reinstitute, there used to be a board member representative to the Reach Committee, that might be something that we should, do in addition. And, what Jeff was saying before about, sort of making money off the money, even though we discussed it on Monday, and it's not legal to do that, because it's not one of the choices, I think that that's something that we should put on a work session, because I think that, I've been doing a lot of driving, and there's like schools that have like, billboards that, like from local doctors and things like that. I know, seriously, and, one was a chiropractor, just caught my eye, but it's on like
Bill Simmel?
the school, no.
Former board member.
But there's ways, like we had talked about doing like maybe signage on buses or, or something. I know, some people told me that I had a meeting tonight at 7:30. They didn't know it was really at 7 because we had the other meeting, but because they drove by and saw the board that's flashing, they happened to be on Carolyn Avenue, and so the board said, oh, you have a meeting tonight. So it's effective advertising, and so I think that might be something, although not for this money, because this is very specific, and I get it, the tax relief part, but I think that might be something that should go on a work session, so I think it's time that we discuss that again.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, members of the audience, on these items, questions or comments? What?
Before we go to the public?
What?
You're not commenting before we go to the public?
I'm happy with the agenda. Okay. I'm happy with it. The way it's designated, and I guess we're really just talking about 9D, but I have no problems with it. We talked about it, we made adjustments, we're good to go. David?
I have three things, and only one of them has to do with 9D.
Whoa! What's the matter with you?
Yeah, that's right. I almost got the light grade out of you listening to this stuff. The REACH commitment to REACH was there was no commitment of funds, right?
No.
The commitment to just say that we're going to explore.
Right.
So is there a commitment to a timetable that you're going to get back? Because, like Dr. Cohn said, you don't want to get lost in the shuffle, and then here we are talking about this in April going, hey, remember when we talked about REACH back in
I can't give
July?
you a definitive date or time, and I know you're not holding me to that. I would say it would be before budget time. So if that was something that we had to look for the following year, it could potentially be there. It could be sooner. We may see something like, wow, this is something really obtainable. Maybe we do have funds and we could utilize something. But right now, I can't, say with 5 weeks out before school starts, this is where we're going to allocate money to. And I have
Before
no
budget
idea.
time, we're talking about
Yeah.
sometime
Something
early in
that's
19.
spring,
It's
yeah.
only 6 months away.
But like you said, it could be before you guys go out, see some good things, and say, hey, we can
Yeah,
probably
could
do
be.
this
Could
fairly
be.
quickly, right? Okay. Second thing is on FHB, why the bond sale being changed? Is that something?
So we now have a more definitive timeline on where we are with our really preliminary drawings and discussions. Now that we're hiring a construction manager, which you'll see on here as well, we have a better timeline. When we spoke with our bond counsel and our financial advisors, their advice was to delay the payment, basically. Like, if you're not gonna do any construction or start bidding anything until January, a shovel's not gonna hit the ground
You don't
until.
need the money until then, yeah.
They were like, don't start making payments for yourself. So based on their advice, that's what the decision was.
And I guess my last question was, the construction management services, curious, it's a Piscataway company, right? Not like a
Correct.
local company.
Correct.
Why is that?
Because,
Well, I mean, it was an RFP process. We received you can.
we received 7, it was an RFP, goes out for proposal. We received 7 bids. We reviewed all 7 bids. We brought the proposals, and we reduced it down to 4. We met with all 4 of them on Monday, and they were the ones that we felt were the best ones, qualified for what they're done, their projects, so on and so forth. We did research on them, references, and they came across the best, and they actually came across as one of the lower bidders, which was good, but their work was very good. So, just to let you know, as I was honored that I was asked by our superintendent of BA to be on the committee, and I did read all 7 proposals, okay, which were all this thick, okay, and no, that's what we felt. We interviewed them all. We had their whole companies here, so they came out the best. So, and they are pretty close, so that's pretty good. There's a couple of them are a little farther away, but they're pretty close.
David, that's it? Anybody else? Dawn?
Dawn Ebner, a couple of things. One, Brooke, thank you for, and I guess just the questions that the board asked. I think there's a lot more, for me, a clearer understanding of how this money and what that 2019 school year actually means. The question I have is, or the way I see it is, whatever we use this year, that $1.2 million, or now 1.325, because you're including the tuition portion in there, that would be able to maintain whatever we do this year, next year also. Right, all these monies, so if you're spending an extra $300,000 for class size, for additional thing, part of that money you're reserving for next year would protect that $300,000. You have to use that for those salaries for next year, correct?
So it
It's a
goes back to
possibility.
Cindy's point of when are things sustainable?
Right.
So.
So this would sustain all, if you save that money, that would sustain those for at least one more year.
We spend $300,000 this year, we know we have to pay $300,000
next year.
Next year.
Right, so that money that you're allocating, however it's defined, I don't actually necessarily define it as tax relief either, but it could be used to sustain it for an additional year. But my question is, if you look at all the money that you are spending this year, it is, if you were to take that to a very rudimentary math here, that $2,108,840 and just divide it in half, so that we use half of it this year and maintain half for next year, that would give us $1,054,426 for each year, if that makes sense, what I'm trying to say. So maybe there could be a little bit of monies that are additionally used for this year also for some of the other things that people had discussed. And you would still have that same amount of money designated to maintain those things for an additional year. So that's my suggestion.
Thank you, Dawn.
Yep.
And just state your name, please.
Robin Mullins, Maxwell Place. I wanted to thank the board for considering the REACH program. Really appreciate it. I do have a question as far as the funds. I'm a little concerned that no money is being allocated at this time to the program, and agreed with the point that Dr. Cohen had made about possible a consultant to take a look at the program. And I think there's a benefit of having somebody come from the outside that's fresh, that isn't involved on a personal level, and it's not part of their job to come and take a look at really what's going on here with a program that's been in serious decline. We know that it's been in decline for a long time. So I just wanted to mention that I agree with Dr. Cohen. And also to bring up the point when you say, well, it's only 6 months, we maybe within 6 months you can take a look at the program. But you have to remember that that's 6 months in a classroom for a child who is not getting what they need, who is not getting a benefit of a program that they are owed to by not only the state, but by Fairlawn as well. So something to keep in mind when you say, oh, only 6 months. That's almost an entire school year for a child.
I only meant it was 6 months till budget season.
It doesn't mean he's gonna wait 6 months to.
Even a few months, it's a big deal.
You wanna, you wanna make a
I have
comment to that?
on what was just said, if I may.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Because at the last meeting you were here, I had asked Natalie to prepare some kind of report by September so that we can determine whether or not it is a functioning program and how it is functioning in the schools. So we're not gonna wait 6 months, hopefully. We're gonna find out a lot sooner than that and then make any modifications that may be necessary to make so that these individuals are given the education that they should be given. And whether we're in violation of not providing them with certain things.
Okay, but I don't want the perception to be that there's gonna be a resolution by September.
No.
Okay.
She's doing an investigation, correct? And you're going to provide some kind of a report back to us.
A preliminary report.
Yeah.
It's gonna be very preliminary, it's only gonna be in September. Okay, I just,
Right, once our staff gets back and we can get some more data.
where are they?
They're waiting outside the
LBI.
Did you wanna address
Yeah,
that point?
that was similar to what Mark was saying. I thought maybe it could go on an education meeting also, where we can get a full presentation from REACH teachers and how the program works, how kids are scheduled, who gets in there, why soup to nuts. So we have a better sense of evaluating whether or not we still need to follow through in actually spending the money on a consultant. However, I also agree with the public comments now that every month we wait another, it could be years and years for us, and progress is okay going slowly, but kids only get 13 years of an education, and one bad year is they say for every one bad year it takes 2 years to catch up in education, and that becomes exponential also for them. So that's what I was going to say.
Okay. Did you want to talk to that point, Ron? Or something else?
I agree with what everybody's saying. I have something else I want to say, but we'll just move the meeting.
To this point?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, as far, I agree, it should come to an education committee meeting. I think we do have to let Natalie and the teachers get back to work, and then it has to be researched. And the superintendent said that they're going to go out to other school districts and see what's going on out in the world, and they're going to be looking at our programs. I know that we got some stuff at school boards last year. We went to a program on gifted and talented education. I attended it, and Dr. Lakatina attended it. So I think in the fall, probably, I wouldn't say it's going to be September, October, but I would think in the fall we could set up an education meeting, and that would be appropriate.
It's a good idea. I just want to, we're probably going to need several education committee meetings in the fall, because we already designated 2 topics, one of them being Bergen Community College to come talk to us about getting prepared for dual enrollment, as well as we said we were going to speak about dyslexia and how we're addressing it in Fairlawn and what we can do as well, so that we know we have this topic as well. So we know we're keeping a running tab on the topic, so.
One education meeting a month for the.
Emily wants to speak to this topic.
I don't know Robert's rules of order, but can I make a motion that at the minimum,
Yes.
we make a motion that
We're in the middle of a motion. We're in the middle of a motion, but go ahead, state your.
that we make the 1.325 million that's going to be carried forward into 1920. Just make that a clean 1.3. Use the 25,000 to hire the people, whether internal or external, to more aggressively get the information we need on REACH and the music program. I truly feel that an education committee meeting is great, but it's just going to stall the process of really doing the deep dive of talking to the multiple stakeholders across a district as large as Fairlawn, that it's going to take time. I know how complicated it is to schedule even a meeting, given your busy schedules and all the meetings you have anyways. That alone is going to take time and stall things out. If the community is saying we want to see progress in this area expediently, and we have 25,000 that can make a really big difference in terms of the pace of how we can pursue this, I would like to make that motion to the board.
Okay, well, you're looking to amend this motion.
Yes.
It's a motion to amend.
Okay.
Yes.
So now we have to discuss the amendment.
Second.
All right.
Okay, you need a
Put it
sec,
on
wait,
your
wait,
list.
wait, do we need a second to amend? Okay.
Yeah.
I second.
Okay, Mark seconded it. Now let's discuss the amendment to the motion. Ron?
Follow the bouncing, trust
Did
me.
you put me on the list?
Trust me,
before?
I do this in 2 meetings.
Why not?
It's a lot of fun.
But Elise was, actually, I think Elise was before Ron. but-
I understand, and I'm with you.
I agree.
The issue I have is that you want to spend $25,000 on this, when one, we don't know what a consultant's going to cost, that's number one. Number two, I would like to get more information. When we asked Dr. Lakatina to get information, as Mark asked, when they come back, we're not waiting for this year. You could talk about the last 3 years of what went on in REACH, and you can give us a report at the September meeting. And, another thing is that I want every child to get the utmost opportunity. But we need to see what's involved in this. I mean, again, how big do we want to go? How do we want to open this up, in each school and so on and so forth. So I just find it hard to just put put a number on that because you don't really know. You might have a consultant that comes in and wants more money than that to look at it or something. I don't know, I'm just saying, that's my opinion. I would like more information before I vote on this. I really would like more information on how the program has been in the past, so that I can make a conscious, I want the program to go on and I want it to get better. But I can't make a decision yet until I have, some more information. That's for me, speaking for me.
All right, Elise and then Mary.
So I just wanted to say that, it's not that there's no REACH program. There is a REACH program. I mean, as far as I know, and I'm pretty close to REACH, there were kits in every classroom, K through 3, when they changed the program to start more in the 3rd grade and offer it to all the students in the classroom as opposed to being the pull-out. And I get if you want to have the pull-out start earlier or whatever. So just a little history. There should be REACH elements in all of the classrooms that the teachers can give the identified students, whether they're in kindergarten or 1st grade. Now, if they're not using it, you're telling me something that is a bigger issue administratively. As far as looking at the REACH program, I'm not sure we need to pay a consultant to look at the REACH program. I mean, let's say we pay you, but I mean, that's something, now that you're apprised that there's an issue, that now you look into that, and then you come back and you tell us and the public, because we're very concerned because the public is bringing this to our attention.
No, I'm not telling you no. Elise and Mary, and then we're moving on.
Okay, but the other thing I wanted to just say really for Dawn and people that don't understand it, because you don't have to change the name of the line item. It is tax relief, because what happens is next year, if it's $1 million, you don't have to raise that $1 million. So you don't go to the public and say, give me $1 million, because you have that $1 million. So that's why it's tax relief, and that's why it's written as tax, right? That's why it's written as tax relief. That's why the line item is tax relief, because it's not relief in, like, oh, I put the air conditioner on and now I'm cooler. That's immediate. But in the future, if we save that, and yes, we could use it for, if we hire a teacher this year, they'll get paid next year, and, it moves it forward. But it's tax relief because you don't have to go out and raise that $1 million, because you already have it. And that's why they call it, I don't know, I have an accounting background, so I guess that's why it makes sense to me. So I just wanted to say that.
Okay, Mary.
Yes, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, I hope you can hear me. I just wanted to say that, suddenly to have a resolution come before us without the administration looking at it, without a recommendation, I would not feel comfortable at all voting for any kind of, not anything Emily proposes. What Emily proposes, we might vote for at some point, but I would not feel comfortable in voting for it now when I haven't had all the necessary input from all the people that I would like to have input from. So if it goes forward, it would be...
Okay, what we're going to do is, we're going to call a vote on Emily's amendment. Call a vote on Emily's amendment to change the numbers.
Okay, so on Emily's.
On the amendment.
On the amendment. Mr. Barbarulo?
This is to change the numbers.
Yes.
Right.
Dr. Cohen?
Please, yes.
Mrs. Frankel?
No.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Ms. Quackenbush?
No.
Mr. Rosenberg?
No.
Mr. Spindell?
No.
Mrs. Wallace?
No.
And Mr. Banta?
No. Okay, are there any other comments from the public about F1 through F11? Okay, call the vote on F1 through F11 without the amendment.
Okay, Mr. Barbarulo?
No. Yes.
Dr. Cohen?
No.
Mrs. Frankel?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
This is just for F8D, right?
This is for F1 through F11.
This is all of them.
Yes, no on F8D.
F90? Or
Well, whichever the,
That's F90.
It's F9D.
The,
by that, F9D.
oh, should have let it go.
It's gonna make a difference?
No.
I know.
I do need 2/3
What?
majority.
It does to me, you know.
Ms. Quackenbush,
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Spindell,
Yes.
Mrs. Wallace,
Yes.
and Mr. Banta.
Yes. Okay, before we dig to the public portion, can I have a motion for a 5-minute recess?
So moved. And moving.
All in favor? Aye. Sorry, we've been here for 3.5 hours.
We get my garbage and throw it out.